Welcome. We have other people who come. This is the launch of this program. Our partner is Al-Fanar, as you know. Lama, Makarem, and myself will be with you for the next month and 1 week. It's a very intense program. A number of you have gone through some of the elements of it. It's really about investment readiness. So investment readiness, I've talked, and I know a few of you, you're going through the growth of your social enterprise or your NGO, and in today's environment, you are facing different challenges that we did not have 2 or 3 years ago. One is that it's getting more difficult to be able to scale. Two, the amount of grants that you have been receiving is being reduced over a period of time. So you're finding yourself with more challenges in terms of financial sustainability. So what we're trying to do here at Faddal, is to give you the foundation of what does it take in order to be able to raise capital. And capital could be grants. Some of you have been getting grants. A number of you have been getting grants. The other part could be debt, subsidized debt, or it could be potentially, for those of you who are profit-making, this could be an equity capital participation. So now, most of you have gone through fundraising. You went through either grants, most of you got the grants, or you got through, some of you got even through equity, those that are for profit. So what we'll do is we'll present the journey. We'll present also what are the different steps. We'll show you the templates. And then what we will do is work with you. So there's going to be, you have the agenda? So we have, so the sessions here today, we're here on the 26th. We're going to go through the investment readiness journey. We will also go through what is this transformation, because a number of you are going through this transformation process in order to make sure that you are financially sustainable. We'll go quickly in terms of what is the data room that you need to prepare in order to be able to attract investors. The pitch deck structure, also quickly, we'll show you an example of a recent one, and more focusing on the thing that you should not do in terms of a pitch deck. We'll go through the different fundraising instruments. What are the sources available today in Lebanon? What are the tips that we need to have? Term sheet negotiation, we'll show you an example of a simple term sheet. We'll be more than happy to go and to look at your own specific term sheet and help you. And then what is the due diligence process that goes through? So it's a big mouthful for today. We might not be able to cover all of it. If we don't, we will cover it during the Tuesday session. This is coming Tuesday. Both of those are face-to-face like we do. So it's in this room that we'll have it. Then what's important are the other sessions that we have. Here is when you come up with either your pitch deck or you come up with your financial model and you ask us questions. You ask us questions or you get feedback from us. What can you improve? What are the challenges that you have? The ultimate day is for us to have a demo day in this room. So this is the demo day will take place on the 3rd of September at 4 o'clock. We'll get investors that are here. These are people that we have been working with. By the way, both of us are not only advising you through capacity building, we sit on the board of different companies, social enterprise, but also larger group. I just came back from a 3-day, 2.5-day offsite strategy offsite with the Bani Sai Ali group, which includes a number of organizations that are also social enterprise in the agricultural field and in the horticulture field. But here, mostly is to get you ready to pitch in front of the audience and hopefully to be able also to raise either debt, capital, potentially grants. So this is the road. So we have 1-2 sessions here which are capacity building. We have those 4 sessions, so we will leave it to you. The benefits of it, if people could come and see how we interact with each one of you, because you'll end up learning. Now, if you don't have the time and you want only to focus on your presentation, we'll structure it accordingly. So these are the sessions where there will be, you present, you ask your questions, you get your feedback, you could sit, and there are free seats wherever you want. So this is on this, and then we will have one-on-one coaching sessions from the 19th to the 23rd, so that you are ready for the pitch deck. What's important, just to give you briefly, the way we work is we do these sort of sessions. We do also a lot of the one-on-one sessions. We do them through different programs. We worked with Beritech on a number of programs. We're working with AUB. We're working with other USG and other universities and accelerator. But we also sit on the board of a number of companies that we have that we're working with. One of the companies in this building, one of the most, I would say, successful investment I have made over the past 5 years on it, but we also invest in the company. So we're not only preaching, we're making sure that we sit on your board to ensure that there is proper execution, but we end up ourselves investing, and our network of friends are people like myself, like Lama, who have gone through, understand the needs that you have, and in some ways are replacing what the banks are not doing today or what the government is not doing today. Because the future of this country depends on innovative, scalable social enterprise that have an impact, and this is what will build the new economic order in this country. And our role is to facilitate the process, and we work with a number of other individuals that are keen to have this take place. Maya Kifek, Faddalit. No, but we could join anywhere. Joanna is with us. You know the Alfanar people already, so we don't need to introduce you. Joanna is our project coordinator. She's sitting in the back. And Lama is coming with close to 18 years of management consulting, corporate banking, and we've been working together for the past 2 years, doing this sort of work across different programs and different organizations. So we're very excited to work with you. I know it's going to be a bit tense in terms of the schedule, but we have, the important thing is not only go through this and this afterwards. If you need help, some of you have been working for many years, more than happy to come and sit down with you if you have other questions following the demo days. We're here to help. We're here to make sure that you are successful. We're going to start now. Any questions on the agenda? Is this clear? Is this clear? Maya, we took the initiative to, Maya is still here or not? Yeah, we took the initiative to have it taped, so the people who cannot attend, they could reach out of it. So this will make it, so we have it to make it. Maya, for those of you who don't know her, is heading the Alfanar. We've been colleagues. Okay, very good. Excellent. Great. Lama? Yes. Online. It's a good question. Thank you for bringing it up. Go back. So what we will have is that, because I know a number of you are traveling, so what we will have, all these feedback rounds will be online. So what we have is we have it online, so it gives you the freedom. If you want to dial in to listen to what's happening, each one of you is going to have a slot. So it's going to be a half an hour slot. Each one of you would have it. If you want to attend the slots of others, we leave it open because you could learn from it, but this will be online. And the last one here, the coaching session, these are going to be one-on-one. So this is our specific things that you want to ask us about you. Here there will be things that you ask us, but you're going to ask us in front of the others. It's up to you if you want to have it, but these are online, these are face-to-face, like we have here. These sessions are taking place in this room. The last session, the demo day, will also take place in this room. Okay, any other questions?
So today we might not be able to cover all the topics for session 1. The way we divided it is for session 2 to be pure finance, so that you can send those that are in charge of finance within your organization, the CFO, the accountant, the person who is doing your financial modeling, so that it's pure finance. But we might have some of the topics that were initially for today that we will cover next week.
Okay, maybe a tip before Lama starts. You're coming with different level of maturity in terms of investment readiness. So some of you are at the early part of it. Some of you have raised grants. Some of you have raised grants and equity. So there is different level. So trying to, some of you would see that there's too much information. Don't worry. Don't worry if you don't get it all. It's going to take time. It's a process that you go through it. We're here to help you go through the process beyond also this month and a half that we'll be spending together. So this is the first one. So it's going to be drinking from a water hose for a number of you. The important thing is for you to have either in your board or in your team to have a person who can understand this, who have gone through it, who have raised capital before, and so he could help you. If you don't find, we'll be more than happy. We have a number of people like us, and we do it on a pro bono basis. we'll be happy to sit down with you and continue beyond the program that we have today with Alfanar, because we believe that this is a process that could take several years. So it's not like 1 month and a half or 2 months or even 6 months. Once we invest in organization, social enterprise, we stay, some of them, we've been with them for 15 years. So it's a process of hand-holding that goes. It's really like a marriage that we do. We sit down with those organizations. We share similar values. We believe in their innovative impact. We believe in their ability to scale. And we believe in the impact that they're creating on ESG. So once you do this, you are really with them, and you're with them all along the way. So this is the way we have been. To give you, just last year, we closed 10 different transactions. 2 weeks ago, we closed another one with another Lebanese companies. There is an important role to fill by business angels that are part of the diaspora that today are replacing the governments, they're replacing the banks, and they're replacing also the traditional venture capital investors that have been drying up. I'm going to pass the floor. We're going to go back and forth between Lama and myself. Thank you, Lama. Our message to all of you is that historically, a lot of you have been relying on grants. Grants are beautiful, but at one point in time, I look at grants like if you're canoeing. I love to canoe. Grants is like you get the water level up. When the water level goes down and you have the grants coming down, you have the rocks. And if you're not used to how to navigate in the rocks, you are facing some challenging time. So you need to look, even if you are an NGO, a non-profit organization, you need to look at ways to not only rely on grants, you have your own revenue generation. And if your own revenue generation is not enough, but you need funding to come up with a new revenue stream, then we will recommend, and this is what we do with another, to go through subsidized debt funding. We have been helping other NGOs and other social enterprises, and why, and you will say, for us it's difficult because we take a responsibility. But at one point in time, we want to help you to move from an environment where you are relying on grants all the time to an environment in order to help you sustain financially, where you need to look at other funding sources, such as debt, subsidized debt in this case, because, and they do exist. So this is, so it's grants, investments include grants, and we are giving donations and grants to some of the organization. It includes subsidized debt. It includes also equity. So, but the process that you go through for grants, for debt, or for equity is a very similar process. You need to build your story, and you need to show to the investors that you are sustainable financially, and you are generating impact, and this is the impact that you measure. So this is common across all the funding sources that you'll be facing. So it's as well available for grants. So if you tell me, Constantin, I'm only looking for grants, I will say I'll help you, but trust me, you need to get yourself to start thinking not only grants, but thinking other means than grants to, because it might be very well that at one point in time there is no more grants available in Lebanon. What do? Do we close shops? No. So we have to prepare ourselves, and we'll help you how to prepare yourself to go to this situation, because it could happen. It is happening now slowly. It's like a slow death. And we see it with a lot of NGOs that are very successful, are today having to cut costs, do a number of things differently. But it's a mindset shift that needs to take place. And we're here to help you. We're like catalysts to help you in this mindset shift, to move from purely grant-based to one which is grant-based, your own revenue generation, potentially debt-based, and potentially also equity partner in case you decide to set up, like several of you have done, with it or next to your non-profit, to have a for-profit social enterprise. Okay, so, but the approach is the same across the board. Any other question or any other specific requests? No? You're all happy with this? Thank you.
So back to investment readiness. So we need to be able to demonstrate that we either currently are already at that stage, or that the company has the potential to become, one, viable. So going back to the business model that holds the ground, to the team that can execute this business model, and the idea that is differentiated. So this is a unique value proposition that we are offering to the market. The other dimension is scalability. Investors would want to see that this idea can be scaled up. So we're not talking about a limited market. We're talking about a market where we can scale, either geographically, either in terms of the product and service offering, either in case of the customer segments that we are targeting. The other dimension is profitability. So investors are here, and here we're talking about financial investors. They want a return on their investment. So they want to make sure, if they are debt holders, that you are able to pay back the loan along with the interest payments that go with it. If they are equity holders, they need to make sure that there's a return, that they can exit and make money on their investment. On the risk management framework, they need to make sure that this idea that you have with the team, with the business model, you have covered all the risks that might impede the proper execution. So you need to have a proper risk management framework. We will be covering this in a while. So proper risk management framework where the risks are identified, measured, mitigated. You have an action plan for each of them to make sure that you tell investors, we are aware of the risks that are here. We are taking action to mitigate them and prevent them from taking place. And there are other considerations in terms of governance. Do you have a board of directors? Do you have the right processes in place? Is it not a one-man show, but there is a succession plan? The exit strategy, so especially for equity investors, do we know that at one point in time we'll be able to sell those shares and get out of the company or not? Impact, mostly for impact investors who have this in their mandate more and more, and they need to make sure before putting money in the company that there is impact, and this impact can be measured, can be monitored, and can be reported on. So what are the dimensions that we look at when we talk about investment readiness? And I believe most of you have filled the survey that Sabine has sent. If you haven't, please do send it, because we will need it when we do hold the coaching sessions and the feedback rounds. So what are we trying to see? We need to see your understanding of the dimensions that investors are looking at. So one, starting with the market and the industry. So whether you realize what the market size that you are targeting is, the size of the market, you're able to quantify it. Whether you understand the demand for this product or service that you're offering, it's there. The competitive landscape, who are the other players that are today in the market, and who are the potential players that might enter the market, and is it easy for them to enter? Are there high barriers to entry, or is it a market that is easily penetrated, and therefore you will be facing a higher competition going forward? The regulatory environment is also one of the market dimensions. Then the investor would look at the business model itself. So what are you offering? What is the product? What are the services that you're offering today and in the future? So here we cover the growth opportunities that you have from what you are already providing today to what you are planning to provide in the long term, and how are you doing this? So what are the distribution channels you are relying on? How are you doing your customer outreach? How are you going to market? What is your marketing strategy? On the production process for those companies that are involved in production, how is the production process? Is it institutionalized? Are there processes that are documented, and so on? Then looking at the team and the organizational structure, what we need to see is, first of all, do we have a complete team or not? So do we have all the functions that are required to make this idea a success? Two, is there a good employee retention and succession plan? Because this is the number one challenge that has been raised with companies: retention and the talent attraction and retention. So the investor needs to make sure that, yes, today you have a good team, you have good talent within the company, but what are you doing to retain them? And what are you doing to attract new talent to make sure that the level of qualification within the company is not affected? Then we look at the traction. So the question here is, what have you done so far? Did you generate revenues? Did you have your early adopters? Did you secure a strong sales funnel that will ensure that you will have those revenues coming in as you are projecting? And what about the financial metrics that you have? How profitable is it in terms of gross margins, in terms of net margins, in terms of cash flow generation potential that you have? So all this will show will give the investor an idea of the traction of where you are. Are they investing in a startup, in an early stage, in a scale up? And they need to understand this, because this will affect the risk that they have in investing in you. Then, do you have a clear growth strategy? So is it that now you just started and you're happy with, content with what you have established, or are you already looking forward and looking at the 3 to 5 year strategy that you have and the key strategic initiatives that you have? This goes hand in hand. So once you have the strategy, you have a business plan, and you have financial projections that are reflecting the strategy that you have met. Then the investment needs, so in terms of what is the capital required, what type of investment are you looking at? Is it debt, is it equity, is it grant? And what about your existing cap table? Do you have already investors on board? What is the relation with those investors? Governance, as I mentioned before, so the presence of a board of directors, the effectiveness of this board in guiding the leadership team within the organization, processes, SOPs, standard operating procedures and controls, internal controls, reviews, risk management, and the impact. So what is the impact? Can you measure it? Because typically investors, especially impact investors, they have within their mandate an impact component, and they need to be able to measure it. So if they are to invest in you, they need to make sure that you can report back on impacts for them to report back to their limited partners. We will be sharing the slides, so you don't have to. Okay. So this is the checklist. Before I do this, I will go through a survey, and I'll ask if one of you can be kind enough to allow us to go through the assessment for your organization. So who's the SE that can propose to do the investment readiness assessment now in front of everybody, to get a sense of the investment readiness status and the questions that you need to ask yourself today in order to do it. So this is a simple survey, and we will go through it and just to see what are the questions that you need to ask yourself today before we go through the investment readiness journey, to see whether you are investment ready or not, or to which extent are you investment ready. Any volunteers? No, this is another one. This is another one. So garbalizer. Yeah. Okay. So, the organization has a clearly defined and stated vision and mission. 5, 4? Okay. We have clearly defined our value proposition, what we are offering, to whom and how. Okay. We have a clear idea of the size of the market we are targeting. Can you see? بعمل zoom أكتر. Okay. We understand very well our clients' needs, and we have captured them within our offering. Sure. Sure. We have clearly defined our target customer segments. We have clearly defined our products and services. We have clearly defined the geographical focus. We're talking Lebanon, we're talking a specific region in Lebanon, or yes. Perfect. Okay. We have clearly defined our revenue generating streams, current and future. Okay. Our offering is clearly differentiated from that of other market players. Okay.
لأنه البرودكت اللي عم نقدمه somehow اسمه للكاستمر. So واضح نحن بشو مختلفين، بس نفرجيه للكاستمر يستغرب. فنحن صعوبتنا بكيف نوصل المسج كلير للكاستمر.
Okay.
كيف نميز حالنا عن competitors.
Okay. We have a clearly designed strategy for the next 5 years. We have mapped all our growth opportunities for the next 3 to 5 years. Okay. We will grow our revenues and customer base significantly over the next 2 years. رح نكبر المبيعات تبعنا بشكل كبير. Okay. We have secured early adopters that liked our solution 5. We have generated a reliable concrete sales funnel. بنعرف من اليوم شو رح نكون عم نبيعه، مين هن الزبونات اللي رح يكونوا معنا.
أنا already بلشنا already بلشنا.
So عندك list مين هن الزبونات اللي رح يكونوا عندك.
هلا مش فاضي في هذا
Thank you. We have started generating revenues. You have.
Yes, 4.
We are starting to scale our business and revenues. بلشنا نكبر.
4, 5, yes.
We reached our break even and we
No,
started
لسه.
generating profits.
No, لسه.
1.
هلا 2 حطيها لانه في محلات في محلات لا ف2.
Okay. We are already profitable. لا. We have a complete team with all the skills that we need.
ناقصنا بعد كم حدا ف3 حطيها. يعني ناقصنا بعد فاينانس معنا يكون شخص.
Okay. We have a CFO no.
هيدي هو هيدا ناقصنا فبعرف اذا.
Yes. Okay. We have a board of directors أو board of advisors.
3.
شو يعني؟
3 يعني نحن عندنا بس هلا عم يتشكل بطريقه صح، سو يمكن بعد شهر شهرين بيتشكلوا بطريقه صح. سو بس حاليا كله a part of advisor or
Okay. We have identified all the risks that you are facing and drafted mitigation actions for them.
no 2 3.
We have a robust financial model, balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement for the next 5 years.
موجودين بس بدهم شغل مع الفاينانس اللي هي مرتبطه سو 3.
Okay. We have finalized and reviewed our financial forecast.
3 كمان. عندنا الفاينانشال فوركاست كلير وعارفين كيف رايحين بس يس.
Okay. عملتوا valuation.
4.
Do you know your funding needs?
Yes 4 حطيها كمان.
Okay. You know what type of funding? Debt, equity.
4 كمان.
شو هو debt؟
equity.
Okay. You have ESG indicators that you can monitor.
No. عندنا ال SDG goal عندنا ال SDG ومعنا الامباكت بس we didn't
بس عم تقدر to quantify قد ايه water saved، قد ايه food production عم تنعمل. You do.
already في الامباكت ريبورت تبع 2023 وهلا عم
so you do. You mapped all investors and funding sources.
شو يعني السؤال؟
يعني صرت تعرفي مين هن البوتنشال انفسترز اللي معقول ومن وين معقول يجوا.
اوريدي نحن معنا وفي ناس عم بتفوت بس بعدنا مين هو لا we didn't clarify it yet.
اوكي.
so اذا بدك 3 يعني لانه في ناس معنا.
We have agreed on key investment. من هلا بتعرفي مين شو البروفايل تبع الانفستر.
somehow yes. So
4
إذا بدك.
We have a clear funding strategy for the next 5 years. بتعرفي اليوم قد ايه بدك وبعد سنتين انه قد ايه رح يكون بدك.
صحيح هيدي
يس مبين عندك بالفاينانشال فوركاست. اوكي. اليوم اذا فات معك انفستر اكزيت استراتيجي واضحه كيف بده يرجع يظهر.
في حدا في حدا لا لا مش كلير بالنسبه لنا.
اوكي. الانفستمنت تيزر والانفستمنت بيتش خلصين اند ريفيو.
اذا بدك واحد الاكزيت لانه فيها جاب يعني.
الانفستمنت تيزر الانفستمنت بيتش موجودين بنعمل لهم ريفيو.
موجود حطيها 4.
اوكي. الانفستمنت راشونال مبينه ليه why would an investor put his money in your company.
somehow yes maybe 3 or 4.
Okay. You have all the data room documents, financial model, company registration, pitch deck.
فينا نقول yes somehow yes.
Okay. جوانا. So حيطلع بس score very simple scoring sheet عاملينها اللي هي عم تحط the same weight لكل واحد من السؤالات بس لتعطينا فكرة from a scale to 1 to 5 مثل ما كنا حاطين هون where do you self assess yourself in terms of investment readiness. بس قد ايه الرقم؟ divided by 36.
How much?
47. So بالنص. Yes, go ahead.
بدي اسال بليز انه هيدا السيلف اسسمنت قد ايه هو مهم او يوسفل عن جد؟ لانه انا مثلا عبيت امبارح اللي بعتوها. هلا انت وعم تحكي قبل لما بلشت بالسيشن حسيت انه الاجوبه تبعولي منا حتى دقيقه، لانه في امبريشن بتكون عندك انه ايه انا عامله اللي علي، بترجعي بعدين بتشوفي شو اللي عليك عن جد وبتلاقي انه اكشلي لا ما عامله اللي عليك، او يمكن مفكره حالك عامله اللي عليك. قد ايه البرسبشن هي شيء مهم بهالحاله؟
ثانك يو. كثير مهمه، من هيك عملنا هلا السيرفي اللي بعتناه طلبنا منكم تعبوه هو بس ليكون الاساس لنحن يكون عندنا فكره عن الشركه اللي انتم فيها، لنشوف شو النيد اللي عايزينها نقدر اكثر تو تايلر تو تايلر اور سيرفيسز لانتم شو النيدز تبعولكم. هيدا السيرفي رح نرجع نبعث لكم اياهم، عملوه اليوم وعملوه بعد ما نخلص كل البروجرام اللي هو بنكون the before and after. بس هيدي هي الفكرة، يعني the purpose of this program is for you to become more investment ready, focusing on checking the boxes that you need to check and for you to be ready to pitch in front of investors and raise funds. So do it now. حنبعث لكم اياه اليوم بعد الظهر and we do it بعد الديمو داي، ورح يضل في اشياء work in progress وهول هن التو دو ليست تبعولكم لتشتغلوا عليهم لانتم تكونوا عم تصيروا اكثر واكثر. and it's a journey ما بتوقف هون، يعني ما في ديدلاين انه هلا وبعدين وخلص. جاربلايزر بلشوا من كثير زمان، اشتغلوا على بيتش داك ويمكن صاروا عاملين 20 و30 و40 فيرجن من الفاينانشال موديل من البيتش داك. so it's a continuous journey, it's a continuous editing, back and forth, feedback. so بالديمو داي الفكره تبعوله هو for you to pitch in front of الجوري، وهول الجوري يعطوكم هن their assessment of your investment readiness status بعد ما تكونوا انتم عملتوا your own assessment. so it's a loop ورح يضل في على طول.
سؤال to the point. انت عندك البرسبشن. نحن اشتغلنا مع شيء 300 شركات over the past 20 years. يعني we have the reference point and we could validate 3 as a 3 أما as it a 1. يعني حسب لو أنت ما بتعرفي أول مرة you go through the process and you don't know how complete it is. so صعب كتير إليك، بس it's important you do this exercise بعد التريننج بعد الديمو داي بعد الكوتشنج سيشنز اللي عملناها 1 on 1 رح تفهمي أكتر and say finally I'm not a 4. I used to be I'm a 2, now I move from a 2 to a 3 and I still know what I need to do to move to a 4 or to a 5. عم تفهمي اللي عم بقوله. So this is your, and we know that it is limited and you have no reference point unless you have raised funds with other process. But if أول مرة عم تعمليها it's normal. So what you feel is to the point. Thank you.
So the journey to investment readiness هي كذا phase. أول phase usually هو الجاب assessment اللي هو what we tried to cover through the survey اللي بعتنا لكم اياه وعبيتوه، وبليز اللي ما عبوه يرجعوا يعبوه قبل ما نبلش الفيدباك راوند. So the idea behind it is to understand what you've done so far. هيدي هي الجاب assessment. شو عملتوا؟ شو رح تعملوا؟ وين انتم من الانفستمنت ريدينس جيرني؟ بأي ستيج الكومباني هي؟ بأي ستيج التيم فورميشن، التيم كومبوزيشن هي؟ وين انتم من الجفرنس؟ وين انتم من الريسك مانجمنت؟ وين انتم من الداتا روم بريباريشن لنقدر نحن نفهم. then في البزنس موديل كانفاس. حدا مش شاغل بزنس موديل كانفاس قبل؟ اوكي. so هلا we will cover it more in detail. البزنس موديل كانفاس هي on one page what the company stands for in terms of who are the partners, who are the customers, what is the product offering, how are you providing this product or service, وشو هن ال financial implications in terms of revenues, in terms of expenses. But then what we do is we take the organization that we work with through a transformation journey. We have at CS Touch we have our own transformation framework اللي هو إذا بدكم مثل ستوبس بنعملهم باكيتس بنركز عليهم لنكون اكيدين انه نحن لما عم نروح عند الانفستور we have the whole view prepared من ناحيه استراتيجي، من ناحيه تيم، من ناحيه بنعرف شو الكور competencies تبعولنا and therefore what would be the offering that we can build on the core competencies to provide. بنعرف شو challenges اللي that we are facing and then we can address them. بنعرف شو هن ال growth opportunities that are lying before us وبنعرف how to implement them. So the whole thing وهلا بنشوف شو هن ال components تبعول transformation plan. Once we do this, once we have the gap assessment, once we have a clear view of the business model اللي عنا إياه, we can work on the financial model. And the financial model, we will put all the assumptions together in order to build it. من ناحية what are the revenue streams, من ناحية what are the cost, what is the cost structure that we are looking at, من ناحية what are the financing needs that we have. So they all go into the financial model. والفاينانشال موديل منه رح يطلع لنا الفندنج جاب, وهذا الفندنج جاب فيها تكون فندنج جاب اليوم, ويمكن نعوز نعمل another fundraising بعد سنتين بعد ثلاثة. So for that we need the investment plan. وهذا واحد من الأسئلة اللي هلأ سألناهم بالسيرفي. ما بيقدر نعرف اليوم قد ايه الاماونت اللي عايزينه, بدنا نعرف a longer term view شو هن الانفستمنت بلان اللي عنا اياه in terms of funding need عنا اياها من هلأ ل5 سنين. Then we need to understand what are the sources of capital. فيهم يكونوا جرانت, بس في كذا نوع وفي انواع جديده من الكابيتال هلا عم تكون اكثر واكثر عم يستعملوها مثل السيف, حنحكي عنهم اكثر. Then we need to do a company valuation. If you're raising funds, equity funds, you need to have your company valuation done. And this is not just one number, it's different numbers, it's a range of numbers from different valuation methodologies so that you have an objective value of the company that you can get the okay of investors on. Then there's a step here where we need to look at the investment partners. It's a selection from your side as much as it is from the investor. So اليوم مش مين ما كان جاب لي هلا ال 200,000 اللي عايزتهم I go and I take them, لأنه especially in the case of equity it's a partnership. So حدا that will come and sit on my board, they will interfere with the company's strategy, with the company's operations. So this section here on looking at the investment partner, deciding on the profile, putting the selection criteria is very important. بعدين بنكون we're closing the deal, so بيكون في due diligence process, في term sheet development. You need to discuss with the investor. حتشوفوا بالterm sheet there are exit clauses اللي هو بيحددوا كيف الانفستر رح يظهر من هيدا الانفستمنت. نحن وعم نمضي so early on هيدا مثل البريناب, بيخلص الزواج شو حيصير بعد الديفورس. وهون الكي ريسك ارياز لازم يكونوا موجودين, يمكن ما نحطهم بالبيتش ديك بس الانفستر حيسال عنهم and we need to have the answers for them. So الجاب اناليسيس ما حامشي فيها, الكومبوننتس اللي فيها او الانسرز اللي بناخذهم للجاب اناليسيس هن بالكويشنير اللي عبيته, اللي هو ريلي اذا بس بقرا الكويشنير المعبى بفهم شو هي الاورجنايزيشن اللي عم بطلع عليها, بعرف الهيستوري, بعرف الفيوتشر بلانز اللي عندهم اياه, الفوكس تبعولهم والفاينانشال امبليكيشن اللي لها. Then I'll spend 2 minutes على البزنس موديل كانفا. So بعرف الكل شغلات, just take it as a refresher for those that have done it in the past. So مثل ما قلت it's a one pager. فيه أول شيء who are the key partners. البارتنرز هون هن الكاستمرز, هن السبلايرز, هن الادفايزرز, هن البارتنرز اللي رح يفتحوا لكم options, هن الديستريبيوترز اللي رح يوزعوا لكم البضاعة. So once you list them, you know what is the strategy of dealing with each of them. بعدين هون you summarize what are the key activities that you do. So we take Garbalizer. شو الكي activities اللي عندكم اياهم اليوم؟
سو جاربلايزر بتبلش من الرو ماتيريال, لانه نحن عندنا السوشيال امباكت والانفيرمنتال امباكت, وكولكت الرو ماتيريال من الناس, كولكت الاورجانيك ليفت اوفرز وبندفع حقها. سو في عندنا هاي البروسيس دبل تشيك, بنجيبهم على المعمل, بالمعمل اوبريت, في عندنا برودكشن فاسيليتي من 12 ستيج بيقطع فيها البرودكت, بيرجع يصير عندنا الفاينل برودكت. بس يصير الفاينل برودكت جاهز على اساسها بينزل على السوق وبينباع للكاستمر ثرو السيل تشانلز. وفي عندنا الاويرنس بارت نحن بنشتغل عليها مع الكاستمر اللي قلنا, وفي 1000 شغله يعني بنجرب نختصرهم.
شو هن هال1000 شغله؟ سو انت كفاوندر وسي او لجاربلايزر شو هن الاكتيفيتيز اللي برات البرودكشن بروسيس اللي انت عم تنشغلي فيهم بالدي تو دي تبعولك؟
هلا في عندك الليجل بارت, في عندك الفاينانس بارت, الاتش ار بارت, في عندك الامباكت بارت, في عندك كبيرسوناليتي لجاربلايزر, لانه نحن بنهتم بالفارمر. سو في الفولو اب بارت, الكاستمر فيدباك, الكاستمر ريليشن شيب, ونتاكد الفيدباك تبع الكاستمر كل شيء اوكي, يعني كاوبريشن في زينب هي المسؤوله اوبريشن، انا ما كثير بتدخل.
اوكي.
بتابع باقي الاشياء. وفي عندك الانفستمنت كمان، الانفستر والداتا
حطيت هون شوي. سو عندنا الفند ريزنج، عندنا building the team، سو hiring اللي قلتها HR، building the partnerships مع distributors او مع اللي عم تعمل collection من عنده، customer relationship، واكيد البرودكت ديزاين، برودكت implementation، sales and marketing، distribution. الريسورسز اللي بنحكي عنهم we summarize them here. We're all Arabic speaking. I'm sorry, I just realized it. What are the key resources here? Key resources could be human, could be financial, could be technological, could be the access to networks. So you summarize them here, and when you have them here, then you can also decide what do I need to do with, in relation to my human resources. What do I need to improve with relation to my financial resources? Are they adept? Do we need to invest more, etc. Then you summarize the value proposition. And here the answer is what are you delivering, to whom are you delivering it, and how are you differentiating from the competitors. So you put the value proposition. This is typically the mission of the company, of the organization. So what value are you bringing, and to how are you bringing this value, and to whom. Then under customer relationships, you fill, so this is how are you getting to your customers, and this is emotionally. So we're not talking about the actual distribution channel, we're talking about how do you get the customer to believe in your product or service, and to become, and to convert into a client and a recurrent client to you. So it could be personal assistance, it could be self-service, it could be communities, and so on. Then come the communication channels. So how do we do it? We do it through awareness raising, we do it through the sales channels, we do it through the delivery. So how does the product or service get delivered? And this is physically the channels. Then you have to map your customer segments. So who are your customers? Who are the people that will benefit from your solution, whose pain you are trying to address? And here we talk either about end users, so those that will use the product, or economic buyers like distributors who will buy your products to distribute it to end users, or decision makers. Let's take the example of supermarkets who will purchase your orders, put it on their shelves before the end user will purchase. So it depends who are the type of customer segments that you have. And here you put the cost structure and the revenue streams. I will not spend more time on this. So the cost structure, you have the fixed and the variable costs. You put them so that you are aware on this one pager what are the costs that you are incurring, and to account for them, and what are the revenue streams that you're getting. And this, once you have this, you have a better idea of the organization that you are managing, and this will feed eventually into the financial model as well in relation to this. These will constitute your strategy. So the current customer segments might change. So today you might have a customer segment that tomorrow will change based on the analysis that you will do on growth opportunities. Any questions on business model canvas? Is it clear? Okay. So I took here the example of Zara, which is not a social enterprise, the wrong example, but because we all know it. So who are the key partners for Zara? These are the shoppers, the manufacturers, and the suppliers. Very briefly and in a succinct way. What are the key activities? They do the product design and development and manufacturing, and they do the delivery and the shipping. What resources do they have? The intellectual property and the short leads in order to deliver and produce. The value proposition, the brand can provide cheap, low quality clothing with, I can't read it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Customer relationship, two types, either with customer service or self-service. The channels, we have the online stores, we have the mobile app, we have the social media. Customer segments are men, women, and children. Revenue streams, we know them, and the costs are physical, e-commerce, operating, and advertising. So this, in one pager, we kind of summarize in a silly way in this example, but we can, the more we develop, the more we're summarizing in a comprehensive way the organization.
appear on the product, that they have a product.
Yes.
So it shouldn't be like this.
ما فهمت السؤال.
يعني نحن sometimes we put a key partner in the distributor or
Mhm.
in
Yes.
stores.
Yes.
But at the same time, they are still challenging.
Sure. Sure.
So it can be in the
Yes.
same
Yes. Yes.
no problem.
Yes. No. Okay. So now going to the transformation journey, this is the framework that I mentioned. We use this framework when we're working with all companies, social enterprise, startups, scale-ups, big corporates that are doing a transformation plan and transformation journey. So we always start with the gap assessment. Then we ask them, what are the key milestones that you have achieved? This is the track record. And every one of those building blocks will go into the pitch deck. So we need to cover those because all this information needs to be communicated to investors and therefore needs to be in the pitch deck. So what are the key milestones? What is your track record as an organization? What are the core competencies that you have today? What are those that you need going forward? And what is the development plan for you to bridge the gap and to acquire those core competencies? Then what are the challenges that you are facing? And we can bucket them, you know, regulatory, operational, HR related, IT, technology, and so on. And for each of those challenges, what are you doing about them? What is the mitigation plan that you have put forward for you to address those challenges so they do not affect your operations? Then we spend a lot of time on the growth opportunities. And I will cover this in more detail, so I'll skip it for now. The value proposition and the competitive differentiation. How are you differentiating from other market players? Why is the garbolizer fertilizer better than the other ones in the market? And what is the selection criteria based on which you're saying, I have this, my competitor does not have? So all this analysis we do. Strategic intent is the vision, mission, and values that the company has, and that need to be shown in the pitch deck. Maybe there's not a slide on the pitch deck on them, but we need to sense them when we're pitching. We need to communicate this to investors. We do at times a leadership assessment, and this is for larger scale, but we also have done it to a startup, whereby we assess the leadership team to see what competencies are missing and how they can be coached, take trainings, or acquire new resources for them to bridge the gap. Then the balance scorecard, we cover it in more detail. All this will allow us to be able to fill the financial model and compute the company valuation. From the financial model, we'll be able to identify the funding gaps that we have and the funding options of how to bridge this gap through financing, what type of financing from which investor profiles. We need to prepare the risk management framework. We prepare the data rooms. We map who are the potential investors that we should tap into. We usually organize an investment event, which could be the demo day that we're holding on September 3, or an investment event per company. So we take Ahla Fawda, we organize a pitching event, investor event in Hamra. We invite investors to come in. Iman pitches and then answers the questions, and there's a networking event that takes place afterwards. From this, we hope after the investment event that we will have 1 or 2 or 3 potential investors interested to sign an NDA, to get the data room documents from Iman, and to sign a term sheet. And this is where we help Iman to negotiate this term sheet and to look at the terms and to see whether they make sense for her or they're not in her benefit. And then finally, we sit on the board to ensure that all those plans that we have covered will be well executed. So we have the board that is holding management liable for the right execution and implementation of this plan. So from this transformation framework, I will focus on 3 components: on the growth opportunities, on the balance scorecard, and on the risk management framework. And on the growth opportunities, and this is before you start working on your financial model, you need to know what to include in the financial model in terms of revenue streams. So for you to know what kind of revenue streams you have, you need to do the mapping of not only what you do today, but what you will be doing as a path to growth. And we start with a brainstorming session where we put together the whole team, not only the founder, but the founder and the team that works with them, and we tell them what are the growth opportunities that you see for this organization. And it's a laundry list. We put it down. We can then structure the thought process through the Ansoff matrix. What does anyone know the Ansoff matrix? Anyone did it before? Yes? Yes, in project management. Okay. Okay, no worries. Okay, so what are we trying to show in the Ansoff matrix? On one side, we have the products and services, current and future. On the other side, we have the market segments, also current and future. Market segments could be geographical, but it could also be customer segments. And we ask ourselves, with today, what we're doing is here. So the question is, how can we increase our market share here? We call it market penetration. What can we do to increase the market share that we have within the same market, to the same customer segments, with the same product offering? So this is here. Then for the product development, what are new products or services that we can introduce? What are new markets that we can enter into, or new customer segments we can start tapping into? And then what product or services can we introduce to a new market, or products or new product or services that we can produce to a new customer segment? I'll show you an example, a field example. So this is OK Distribution. It's a startup, a social enterprise. Their focus is on grocers, so Dikkenet. So those small grocery shops and villages across Lebanon, they're facing many challenges. One of them are the fact that they don't have access with good margins to the bulk of grocery, and they don't have them in one place. So what OK Distribution are doing is that they're positioning themselves as the central platform, whereby the grocer can enter on their application the list of products that they want within the quantities that they want, and then OK Distribution would bring them in a timely manner, so within 24 or 48 hours, with good margins, without eating up from their profits, and they will also help them with other potential services. So it's a startup, but we're already thinking of the future in terms of products, in terms of markets. So this is what they're doing currently. In terms of new products, they are thinking of providing the sales and marketing services to those grocers. So take one grocery shop that are selling, I don't know, honey jars. They can help them reposition the honey jar, do the sales and marketing for it. So this as a service. So they become consultants. And this is a new revenue generating stream for them. They can do their own private label. So they can sell their own, instead of buying, I don't know, persil, they can do their own private label and sell it to them. They can go through digitalizing. This is very, very important, because they're providing those small grocery shops with a digital payment platform that they can use. Another way of looking at it, so this is product development. Market development is they're starting now in Shweifet. They want to move further north. So they want to have a warehouse in Dubai, and then in Jbeil, and then move further to Tripoli. So this is in terms of geographical coverage. In terms of customer segments, they are today looking at the grocers, but what they're doing to the grocers, they can do to the small pizzerias that are in the villages, to the small oreca boutique hotels, small restaurants that they have. So this is, and they will eventually move from a B to a B2C model. So this is where they're developing the market itself. And in terms of diversification, doing strategic partnership with last mile delivery, with microfinancing institutions could be something that is neither here nor here. So they're moving to a new thing both ways. Okay,
So
this
how long has this started then?
just now, a few months.
And when you're talking with grocery stores, you're talking about the classic old mentality.
Exactly.
So how
No, but they're getting good traction in terms of number of stores that they have. They have 1,000 stores already downloading their application, putting orders online, and it's yeah. So once we map those growth opportunities, we prioritize them, and we have a framework to allow you to prioritize those growth opportunities. And this is part of the investment readiness. We didn't move to a new subject, okay? So within your investment readiness journey, you need to work on your growth opportunities and include them in your financial model and your pitch deck to investors. So how do we prioritize? For each of those growth opportunities, we need to understand what is the funding required. So to open a new warehouse in Dubai, how much money do they need to allocate to do that? What is the financial return that they will get out of expanding to a new warehouse? How strategically aligned is it having an extra warehouse in Dubai versus what they're doing? So this is high, medium, low, it's a high. What is the execution risk? How hard or how risky it is to implement? It's low, right? So the execution risk is low. In terms of impact, they're growing their impact to a new area in Lebanon and to additional users, so it's high. So based on this, depending on the funding required and financial return, assuming it is aligned with their model and it's profitable and makes sense, the decision would be a go, okay? In other dimensions, if the funding required is too high, financial return is too low, it's strategically aligned, but the risk of execution is very high, the decision would be no-go. And so we list them, and it's a work of reflection. So it's not really a model where you say yes, 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 no. It's a way for organizations to discuss, for the leadership team to see what are the options, what are the pros and cons of each option, and then they will decide go, no go, hold, or pilot to test, and then to take pilots. You start small. So for example, yes, but you don't produce, exactly, you don't produce a big chunk of it. You try it in one limited market. You don't distribute it to all your points of sale across the country. So you do something on a, yes, yes. So once one of those growth opportunities, and usually you show this to the board of advisors or board of directors to get their okay. And once one of them looks like an interesting proposition, you need to prepare the investment memorandum behind it and submit it to the board for approval. And this is what typically you show. So you show an overview of it, why do you need the investment, a projection of the financials, showing why it makes sense in terms of strategic alignment, financial viability, and risk, operational feasibility. And then you tell them what is the return that they would get on this investment, and then they will tell you whether it's a go or no go, and then you go ahead and implement. So this is on growth opportunities. Questions? It's been 1 hour we started. Do you want to break, have a cup of coffee, and then continue? Is it?
Okay, one of the exercises that we do with all the companies with whom we work is we try to sit down with you and identify what is the roadmap that you have to face over the next 12 months. We call it the balanced scorecard, and it's divided into 2 categories. We have in 2 different buckets. So we look at it from your funders, the donors or your investors. What are they looking at? We look at it from the customers. So these are the people that you're providing your services to. And we look at it from the operational. So what do you need to improve in your operation to become more efficient? And the 4th bucket is what do you need to do in order to keep, retain, develop your talent. So this is, we call it financial excellence, customer excellence, operational excellence, and employee engagement. So what are the typical metrics? So on one side, we have the metrics, which are what are the measures that are going to be important. So for instance, from a shareholder perspective or investors, he would like to look at what sort of revenue, what sort of operating profit margins, what sort of return that you're getting on it. So this would be some of the metrics that we have. For the customers, is the number of customers, your market share, what are the customer satisfaction surveys. So these are all measures of how well are your service providing and how well are they perceived by your audience. The 3rd category has to do with your efficiency. So some of you are producing. Say, for instance, Garbalizer is producing. How efficient is she or are they in terms of the inventory and in the receivable? Because they're selling, but they're extending their financing terms to customers. So this is, they are carrying receivables. So if you look at those receivables and the inventory, how efficient is it versus the operation they generate? And here it's about your ability to retain. So are people leaving your organization? What percentage? How happy are the people? So these are some of the metrics that... comment on change? Ah, c'est toi qui change, okay. D'accord. So this is how a typical balanced scorecard would look like. So you have the key performance indicators. So we sit down with each one of you and we say, okay, what are those indicators for 2024? We will do it typically for the CEO. So we'll take the CEO. What are those indicators? So what sort of revenue do you expect to generate this year? What will be the gross profits that you would expect to generate? The operating profits or the net profit if applicable? And what will be your cash flow from operations position? These are examples. It's up to you to decide. If you're a non-profit, there is no profit. But if you're a non-profit, you still might have some revenue-generating activities and some expenses related to these revenue-generating activities. So we'll go through the KPIs. For customer excellence, we'll look at what sort of growth are you heading. If you have market share indicators, what do you think it is? 2, 3, 4%? What are the number of new incremental customers? What is their level of satisfaction? And we measure it in different ways. You could measure it by the retention rate. You could measure it by the customer loyalty index. So we have different ways to capture the voice of the customer and to see how happy they are with your products and services. When you look to operational excellence, it's about efficiency. So it's either the number of defects that you have, or it could be how efficient are you in managing your receivables or in inventory, or it could be revenue per headcount. So you have different measures of productivity that you have. The last one has to do with the staff turnover, has to do with the ability to retain your people and how happy they are. So these are measures. These are indicators. And it's like a budget that you are submitting to your stakeholders. Who are those stakeholders? Your shareholders or your donors. These are your customers. These are the employees and the system that you're using. And these are, of course, the people that you're working with. So these are the measures. They're all concrete measures, and we normally would have, it's part of your budgeting process for 2024. So you know at the beginning of the year what you're aiming at. Now, to get there, you need to implement a few strategic initiatives. These are breakthrough. These are projects that you're implementing. Most of you are here because most of you are in the process of raising funds, either debt, grants, or equity. So raising capital could be such an initiative because you want to raise capital at a specific amount. You want to do it, let's say, in Q3 or Q4 of this year. And who is going to be responsible for it? You might want to launch a formal board of advisor or board of directors that you do not have. Why? Because once you get to raise equity or debt capital, your investors would like to make sure that their investments are protected, and the way they do it is by being part of your board. But this is a process. It's a process that had a beginning, has an end, has time allocated to it, and there is an owner behind it. So this is examples. You might want to launch. We took the example of OK Distribution. They want to launch several of these distribution centers. They started in Schweifert, wants to move to Bayer, wants to move to Jbeil, wants to move to... So these are examples in terms of customer excellence to be able to set up these warehouses. These are important projects. You have to find the location, you have to find the staffing, you have to find the... over here, they need to have the funding to be able to do this. They want at the same time to launch their board of advisor. So these are examples of it. Here, you might want to launch some sort of software product, an ERP platform, or you might want to launch a way to be able to, I don't know, to better manage your client relationship that you have. The higher additional staffs will be here on it. So these are examples. So why is this important? It's important because what you do is you're very clear in terms of what are those areas of focus for the next 12 months. So it allows you to get clarity, not only to yourself, but it's clarity across the different team and across your stakeholder. Second, it allows you to prioritize. What do you think is important? What do you think is less important that you have? So this is a way for you, once you have your list, and it could be only 3 or 4 bullet points here or over here. So you have, is what are you going to focus your time and your resources on so as to be able to deliver on this commitment. The third one, when we work with the organization, this for us is a way to get to know them. It's a way for them to get to know us, but most importantly, we will know here where are we able to help. So it is for us a roadmap to see we could help you here in the fundraising. We could help you if you want to, I don't know, hire specific resources or provide a certain level of training to your people, or you want to launch new operation. So it's also an opportunity for us to know where we can add value at which phase of this journey. So it's, and this is an example. The example here is for Fabricade. So it's one of the companies that part of this group, they're not here today. We sat with Omar, we sat with his team, and here they have revenue, gross profit, operating profit. CFFO is important. It's cash flow from operation. At the end of the day, we want to know how much cash has been, because you could be very profitable, but you're not collecting on your cash. So what's important is not only the income statement, but we want to know, make sure that you could collect. So these measures are very clear for 2024, and we review it. Then we look at customer excellence. In this case, he's growing his revenue base. He's also looking at revenue and operating profit per channel. So he has retail, he has upcycling, he has royalty. What are the profitability across each of these business units? And we're looking at customer satisfaction index for retail and upcycling. In terms of other measures, he has receivables. He has also inventory. So we're looking at the number of days, because this is where the cash is. It's in his receivable and in his inventory. If you have visited his site, you will see it's a big warehouse, plenty of inventory, and also a lot of receivables as he sells. We're looking at revenue per head count. We're looking at damage as a percentage of stock. So what is the amount of clothes that are basically thrown out and we're not using? And we're looking for provision for damaged stock or unpaid receivable. This is a way of measuring whatever inefficient element in his value chain would happen. We're looking at staff turnover, talent retention, employee satisfaction. This is, you do your list. These are the measures. Imagine you're piloting a plane. These are the speed of the plane, the altitude of the plane, the wind pressure, the wind speed, the outside temperature, inside temperature. These are all the different measures that you have. But at the same time, you have to fix your plane. So these are the initiatives that he's putting in place. So Omar is raising equity capital. We're actually helping him in the process. In this case, we have, for instance, he is there with Al-Fanar. He's also completing to raise other grants. So this is here equity capital. This is grants. He's conducting the board assessment and trying to see whether there are changes he needs to do in his existing board. He's also looking at rationalizing his portfolio of operation. Where is he getting out of? Some of these retail stores are not producing profit and will never produce profit. Maybe it was the wrong decision. So this is where we rationalize it. He's also looking at different ways to introduce new products and new services. I don't want to go through the list, but this is an exercise. Each one of them would have a timing, would have an owner behind it. So these are breakthrough projects that we have. This is the way that he's doing it in terms of operational excellence. And this is the way he's looking at employee, introduce a stock option program, launch the employee satisfaction survey, have a bonus and commission scheme for retail. So these are clear examples. Now you have it, and this we review on a quarterly basis. So we sit down. Are you on track? It's a color green. Are you slightly off track? It's a yellow. If you're very much off track, it's a red. So on one slide, we know exactly what is happening, what is on track, what is off track, so we will know what sort of help and assistance we need. If it's completely off track, why? What do we need to do in order to bring it off, on track? So this is one way of having one transparency across the measures of your performance. Not only most of the organization focus on this one. Actually, this one is the end result. If you do well in terms of your customer satisfaction, if you do well in terms of your efficiency, if you do well in terms of your staff retention, this automatically will turn out well. So these are the support initiatives that are doing it. So transparency, clear accountability. Who is owning what in the organization? And once we have this, this is how we decide about how we're going to reward. So the bonus schemes, the reward scheme, are based on what we believe is important. So for the CEO, we'll say revenue is important, your ability to manage your working capital is important, your employee retention rate or your customer satisfaction. For each one of them, we put a certain weighing factor, and your bonus will depend on your ability to be able to make these numbers in 2024. So what you have done, you've set the performance measures, you've set the key priorities that we want to have, and you set also what is the reward so what you've done is you completed the cycle. So any questions on this balance scorecard? And it could be much more simple than this one. You could have it in in 2 or 3 bullet points, and you could have a few strategic initiatives. For us, it's important because we know where we could help you. For you, it's important because you know where you prioritize, where you need help, where you're going to insource versus you're going to outsource. Questions on the balance scorecards? Thank you. Any questions, any clarification? Now start simple. Start simple. Trust me, this is a very, very clear way for you to, so if you are spending your time not on these elements, my question is, why are you doing it? So this is where you need to be spending your time. So these are the breakthrough initiatives that you have. And if you're doing all this, and it's not reflecting in terms of those budgets, then there is something missing. So this is a way, so if we are, and this is the role of your advisors, either your board or whoever you work with, is to help you put it together, but also hold your hand as you're executing it over the course of the year. Yes. Okay, it's, yes.
Do we do this exercise after we've set our plan وبلشنا ننفذه وهيك أشياء ولا is it too late؟ شو بيعمل واحد بهالحال؟
What typically this is done normally as part of the budgeting process. So what you do when you start the year, we have your budget that you have, and you have your key priorities. If you look at it, this is your budget. So I'm going to answer your question. But what when you look at the budget, this is normally your budget. What is your revenue? What is your cost? What are your hiring plan? So this is the budget. So what we're doing is we're doing a budget across all the other dimensions to make it more complete. And this is your business plan. These are your list of strategic priorities that you want to implement. So you have on one side your financial budget, but you have all the other supporting elements that will allow you to do your financial budget. And at the same time, you have what I define as normally your business plan, which these are the list of initiatives that we're going to implement in order to make those numbers. Now, what happened in the past? So the way you look at the past, before doing this for 2024, what we want to do is we want to go back to 2023. So what happened in 2023? What were the key initiatives? What were the key achievements that you have done in 2023? What were the key challenges that you faced in 2023? So by doing this exercise, looking back in terms of what worked, what did not work, it allows me to make sure that those here takes into consideration what happened in the past. So you don't do it's the first year of your operation, you do it, but if you have a year back or 2 years back, take the learnings of the previous year to see what here matters, what can we learn from it, are our assumptions too aggressive in the past? So take the learning of the past year in order to help you define it. And this is ongoing. You're going to be plus or minus 50% wrong. It's okay. We will help you next time you go around. So it's not how perfect you are. It's much more for you to get used to the process of clarity, prioritize what really matters, hold people accountable for it, and reward people according to what they have done. So it's a mentality shift in terms of how you work and how you allocate your priorities and how you allocate your resources accordingly. And this is based on the past, but not only on the past. What we do, the luxury that we have, is we do this, I don't know, in our portfolio today, we probably have about 50 companies that we are working with. Now we have this, so we could tell you in your sector, what are you missing? Because we've gone through the exercise with other companies or other NGOs or other social enterprises that might be similar to your business model. What can we learn from them that you might be of benefits to you? So this is a bit the value that either your advisors, Al-Fanar, ourselves, whoever you have on your board, should normally bring in. And having worked with this, how can this help you address and make sure that you have a correct? But it's a learning process. It will never be perfect. you go through it. Any other questions? All clear? Thank you. Actually, let me, once you have your budgets and you have your plan, the question that any investors would ask you, what can go wrong? The risk management framework lists the areas of risk that you could face, lists how much of the impact of these risks on your business. So I need to know, as a donor or as an investor, I need to know, are you in good control of because all of you will have facing risk. So what are the key risks that you have, and what are your mitigation actions against these risks? Most of the companies do not do this exercise. It's a very fundamental exercise because all of you would have risk areas, and from these risk areas, what comes up is, don't give me your base case, give me also your worst case. So what is the worst case scenario that you have if you don't get any funding, if you have to rely purely on your own revenue generation? What does this mean to your organization? Do you have to restructure? Do you have to change the focus? Do you have to reduce some of these initiatives? So the worst case scenario is one of the outputs that comes in from the risk management framework. So our recommendation, and if you haven't gone through it, it's really an hour to 2 hour session with your entire team. And this is extremely important. Normally it's done by the board. So every single board need to have once a year their risk management framework reviewed, approved. We understand what are the risks, and we are clear about the mitigation actions, and we are willing to accept those risks as part of our business. This is missed by a number of the organizations with whom we work. So we will not, but you will have examples of it. You'll have the template of it. Very easy to fill, very easy to complete.
Thank you. I will jump to the investment management process. So the idea is that we are looking at the process from the SE point of view. The same process is happening in parallel from the investor's point of view. Along this, from the investor's point of view, they do screening, they do evaluation of the investment opportunities, because it's not only your investment opportunity that they're looking at different ones. So they screen those, they decide on the few that they would like to evaluate, they evaluate them, and then they decide to go for it through the pre-negotiation phase and then the closing of the deals. The reason I'm showing this is to say that during this phase, usually the document that you as an SE need to sign with them is an NDA. So straightforward document whereby you say the investor signs an NDA saying that they will not disclose of your financials, of your operations, of your detailed data to anyone. Then during the pre-negotiation, the two documents legal documents that we are looking at are an MOU or the term sheet. So here we're listing the basic terms of the transaction in terms of what the transaction is, the amount, the type, and some of the clauses that go with it. And then once you're closing, you have, in the case of debt, a debt holder agreement or a bond loan agreement, and in case of an equity participation, it will be the shareholder agreement. Now, in terms of deliverables for this investment readiness journey, we're looking at 1, the financial model, 2, the company valuation that is a result of the financial model, 3, the pitch deck and the investment teaser being a summary of the pitch deck. The mapping of investors, so this is a list of investors that are in the country, in the region, in the sector that you are working with, the funding sources, the data room finalization, and the term sheet.
Sorry, Lama, this is what we have to be ready for at the end.
These are the deliverables that you need to have. So we will go through them. So what is in the data room typically? 3 categories of documents. The first one are legal documents. These are related to the commercial registered. For those companies that are a bit more advanced, minutes of board meetings, delegation of authorities, charters, CVs of management and of board of directors, internal audit reports, technology documents, SOPs, so everything that is legal. The other bucket is the financial documents. So here we're looking at audited financial statements, financial projections, financial budgets, and the valuation. And then the investment documents. These are the teaser, the memorandum or pitch, term sheet template, the shareholder agreement, the investment plan in terms of what are you investing in OPEX or CAPEX over the next 3 to 5 years, your risk management framework, the competitive analysis. So all those are required by investors. They need to have access to this, and the 3 categories will constitute your data room. So you don't do it from one night till you do it as a process. You start compiling those data room documents gradually until you have a finalized data room. But as of today, start compiling those documents in one place on one server so that you can give access to the investor to that data room for them to do their due diligence and see the documents.
Sorry,
No, not at all. Go ahead.
Question, please interrupt.
If you're moving from NGO to social enterprise, what are the legal documents? Because there is no such thing as social enterprise legal documents.
Yes, but there's an SRL or an SRL.
So you're...
It will become a company. Until now they're working. I mean, there's a lot of lobbying to have a legal status as social enterprise. Until then, the social enterprises that we are working with are established, are registered as SRL or SRL, just like any other Lebanese company.
Could it be legal documents of an NGO which is moving to social enterprise?
If you're an NGO, you could be raising funds in debt. You could be raising debt funding, and you could have your registration as an NGO in your data room. So it's not only equity, and the data room applies for any kind of funding. So typically, even donors would like to see some sort of the documents, and they request them. So in terms of your incorporation, the audited account, the legal.
Thank you.
But let's take the question, because most of you today might be NGOs setting up a social enterprise so what this data room is ongoing. It would be here now, it will continue to be here because you're going to go through several funding rounds. It could be grants to start with, then another grant, then a third grant, then at one point in time you might look at debt funding, and at one point in time you might look at equity funding. The data room stays. It's only the documents gets updated. So you might have one, for instance, one of the companies is Beit El Baraka. Beit El Baraka is an NGO. Beit Kanz is a for-profit. So now today the concept of a social enterprise doesn't exist. It's a company that is for-profit like any other company. So you could have either SIL or SIRL, as the Lama has said. So the legal status, but you need to have the paperwork. You need to, for each one of them, who is the board, how much capital, who is your lawyer, etc. So all of those, what I call administrative work, needs to be included in it. But the most important one that they would look like, they want to look at why should they invest in you. So where are you growing? So what are the growth? So all the elements that are in the investment documents and reflected in the financial documents, and those, if you look at most of you, you've gone through 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 iterations behind it. So all of those will change with time. It doesn't matter. It will be updated. But keep it and have clarity in terms of how you classify these documents.
So moving to the pitch deck, which is one of the deliverables in the data room of the investment readiness journey and one of the components of the data room. Here we're listing the components of a pitch deck. So I would like you, as we cover this section, think of your own pitch decks and what's missing from them and what you need to incorporate. So the first thing, and most of the pitch decks are missing this one, it's the investment rationale, which is answering the question, why would an investor put his money in your company at this time, in this sector, in this country, etc. So the investment rationale answers the question, why do I invest in you? It could be either the first slide of a presentation, or it could be the closing one to leave the investor with, okay, that was my ask, and this is why you need to invest in me. The second component is the pain point. So what is the problem that you're trying to address? What is the problem that your solution is coming to address, that you're coming to solve? Then there's the solution. So we start with the problem. This is the problem. These are the challenges that are faced by my customer segments and my end users. This is the solution that I'm bringing to face those problems. Then I define the value proposition. So what is my solution providing that others are not providing? So this is the what, the how, and the to whom. And this is the mission of the company. So I'm here to provide organic fertilizers. In the case of garbalizer, I'm taking the same example. So I'm here to provide organic fertilizers to farmers in the Bekaa area, solving two problems: access to fertilizers, the cost of fertilizers, chemicals that are used, and also from the other side, the waste and the waste crisis. Then the market size and market trends. So how big is the market that I'm targeting? How big is it? And what part of this market am I targeting? So I'm looking at the total farmers market in Lebanon, but I'm focusing on the Bekaa one as a start. And from the Bekaa one, I would like to take 10% of that market. So here I quantify the big market and that I would like to target. What is my go-to-market strategy? So how am I going to market? Am I doing it through points of sale, through my own shops, through distributors, through e-commerce, through online sales? How am I doing it? Then how am I differentiating from existing players? So what is my competitive positioning? And I'll show examples of each one of them. Then what is my business model? And so most of the times this is missing. We need to understand how are you making money out of this solution and out of this value proposition. So what is your revenue model and how are you making business? Is it through subscription, through sale of products? Is it through memberships, fees, commission? How are you monetizing? Then what have you done so far? These are the key milestones that we covered in the transformation journey, if you remember. So what have you done so far in your journey to come here to me and pitch in front of me and ask for my money? Have you registered the company? Have you started generating revenues? Do you have you established early adopters? Do you have recurrent business? Do you have points of sale? Did you partner with distributors? So what have you done so far in order to launch the company and scale? What are the growth opportunities that you will be looking after? So once I invest in your company, what will you do to take your company higher and to scale? Who is the team? With the team, who are the advisors and who are the members of the board of directors if you have a board? What are your financial projections looking like in terms of revenues, in terms of profitability, in terms of profit margin, in terms of liquidity? So it depends on the business model. Then what are you asking in terms of amount, and what in terms of type of amount? So is it you're asking for 350K in equity, in debt, in grants, in safe note? And what are the terms? If it's debt, is it 10% interest rate, 5% interest rate? Does it have a grace period? Does it have a collateral? Does it have a grace? What else? And then the ESG impact is more and more applicable to you as SEs. What is the impact that you're generating? We need to quantify it, to measure it, and to understand what is the impact today and what is the impact that we expect to have in 3 to 5 years down the line. So I invite you to look at this list and to see whether you have all those components in your pitch deck covered in this list. So this is an example of the investment rationale slide. Why should anyone invest in you? This is Wakilni, the last mile delivery in Lebanon. Why? Because they have an exceptional team, there's a high demand that they will meet, and there's a huge market growth that they are trying to ride the curve of. So this is how they position it, and this is them today, and this is them in 2026. So they're already covering within their investment rationale slide the growth opportunities that they have, where they expect to be. This is the exit. So these are the new markets that they would have reached. And so they have them summarized here as under the executive summary, which is the investment rationale. Compost Baladi have opted for a bullet list for the investment rationale: proven track record, trusted market player, early mover advantage, active and growing, alignment with global sustainability target, customer engagement, and so on. Then the next component, if you remember, was the problem, the pain point. For smart land, the problem is the one faced by farmers. It's similar to the problem that Garbalizer are addressing. Expensive fuel for fertilizers that are not organic, pesticides. They consume water, they cost labor cost, and the output is damaged. So this is the problem. What is the solution? This is another example of problem where the problem is affecting two users, the bus owners and the users for Hadir. So this is another way also of positioning your problem. Then what's the solution? For Sowit, which is a Moroccan startup also in agri-tech, this is the solution. So it's a SaaS platform that will help farmers manage farms while helping ag organizations manage risk. The value proposition, this is an example from Inventures. They have a double value proposition. Here they're working with corporates, and here they're working with startups. So their value proposition is addressing the pain points of startups who need an accelerator, so they're playing the role of an accelerator, and they're addressing the pain point of corporates who need IT services provided to them. This is the value proposition of Cultiva, a partner of Compost Baladi. So these are the 5 reasons why Cultiva, because it improves the soil structure, the pH, reduces water absorption, and so on. Then the market size. Here we talk about the 3 TAM, SAM, and SOM. So this is the total available market. This is the market for fertilizers in the MENA region. This is the serviceable available market. This is the size of the market of fertilizers in Lebanon. And this is the one that Garbalizer want to target, which is the one in Bekaa. And from this market, they expect to get 5 or 10 or 15%. So this is the jargon, TAM, SAM, and SOM. The go-to-market strategy, so how are they going to market? Through strategic alliances and through sales and marketing, offline and digital. And the alliances are with governmental entities and with universities. That's a slide for the competitive differentiation. It's a very good slide. Usually it's you as a company here and your competitors or categories of your competitors. So either you put names or you put, I don't know, chemical fertilizers. I'm using the same example. And then here, this is the criteria based on which you can differentiate. So you can differentiate in terms of quality. You can differentiate because you price lower, because you have better service, customer service, because you have a global reach while your competitors don't. So based on this moon approach, we can see the positioning of us versus other players and highlight our differentiating factor. This is another way of having two criteria only. Here it's price and the design, and then seeing where do we fit in this two criteria matrix. This is the business model. So for Smart Land, again, they generate business revenues in 2 ways. Through the setup fees once they make the installations, and they charge for the setup fees, and then every month they have a subscription. And this is the revenue, the recurrent revenue model that they have, which ensures that they have revenue incoming every month. This is a different representation of a business model. They have subscription fees, they have marketplace commission fees, they have advertisements, they will rent studio, and they will do marketing for events. So these are their different revenue streams. Some of them are main revenue streams, and others are ad hoc, which are not the core of their business. That's a Lebanese designer. He's showing his growth opportunities. So he will increase his points of sale, he will introduce new showrooms, he will set up new workshops, he will start potential partnerships with other brands, and he will expand his product offering from the wedding and evening dresses that he has to scarves, belts, watches, and other accessories. This is how Book Inc. showed their milestones. So far, what they have generated are 39,000 active users, 300 plus artists who requested access to their platform, 1 million plus views on Instagram, 6 times LTV to CAC. So this and the recurrent revenue or annual recurrent revenue of 25K. So this is the milestones. Another way of showing this is through a timeline. So Najla started in 2012. What he did year after year is expand, participate in fashion shows, and open new showrooms, and grow his market share gradually. On the team, usually what we see is a much more summarized version. This is an excellent example of a team slide in a pitch deck because it has the team, all of it. It has a view on the experience of team members, what they've done, what they studied, key names that are interesting. HEC Paris, they had mentioned where they worked, so 13 years in management and tech and strategy tech. So it gives not only pictures and the names, but also gives an idea to investors of the quality of the team. And what we're saying here is it's never too early, even at a startup stage, to have a board of advisors or board of directors, and include those in the pitch deck. And this is the importance. I'm going fast just to get more time for the rest, but this is the importance of having a board of directors early on to ensure that they complement your skills, they validate your planning, they instill discipline, they give you access to their networks and broaden yours, and give you a strategic view of the company. Financial projections, this is D-Shop, so it's showing the revenue distribution, how it started between 23 till 24 and how it's projected to go. This is the composition of revenue that is coming from D-Shop versus from the other brand that they have, and how sales are ramping up. And this is the profitability in terms of gross profit, of EBITDA. We will cover these concepts on Tuesday, and the net income, and how this is also increasing in terms of profits. Now, on the slide of use of funds, what are typical uses of funds? Either to hire people, or to acquire equipment or machines or land, or to pay salaries, or to purchase raw materials, or to stock up on inventory, to put a budget for advertising and marketing, to enter new market, to invest more in R&D, to get licenses or patents, to rent an office as a warehouse, a point of sale, to lease machinery or cars or what have you, or to settle debt. So these are typical uses of funds. We also see them as working capital, OPEX and CAPEX. So in this slide, you will see that these are the uses of funds. So 30% is going to working capital, 40% to CAPEX, and 30% to OPEX. And this is the ask. So they're asking for 150K of a 250K total round. They're asking for subsidized debt at a 6% interest rate to be paid semi-annually over 4 years with a 6 months grace period. The ticket size, the minimum ticket size is 10K, and this is the use of funds that they have. And finally, on ESG impact, this is a Moroccan company which is also detailing where the impact is in terms of food waste. This is Fabric Aid, which you know more. So this number of clothes recycled, clothing items sold, direct beneficiaries 210, and then the reduction in environmental numbers such as carbon emissions reduced and water saved. So questions before I show another example?
So when a company brings investors, my question is, what are the authorities of an investor, of investors towards the company? So for example, they are giving the funding now, but do they have authority to change one of the team members? So they are not sure of the team. Maybe they want to change the governance. Are they allowed to do so? Because companies usually fear to have investors because of this. So I want to see your point of view on this.
It's a very good question. I'm sure you understood it. What happens is when you sign a term sheet or when you sign a shareholding agreement, you have what we call matters that are under you need to go and to get the validation from the investor. So the investor would specify, for instance, if you want to hire a CFO, he would like to have a veto power. If you want to raise capital among a certain amount, he wants to have. So all those items are discussed and are part of the agreement that you have. And this is very important because you need to feel comfortable with the level of control. So you're not anymore on the driver's seat. So he or she will end up controlling some of the decision that you end up to be, and these are contractually written and contractually committed. So it's only the documents that you have to provide on a regular basis and decisions that you have to take. Some of them you will take without any problem, others you will take with getting the formal approval from this. So it is legally documented and implemented. So take your time, make sure that you are comfortable with this and trying to negotiate whether if you're not on it, for instance, what is the level of investment that you could do. So if it's putting the bar as low as $5,000, for you it means that every single investment you need to go and get approval. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So it needs to be a good working relationship between both of you. So these are listed, these are discussed, and these are negotiated behind. Okay, but very important because you're basically sharing the control of the organization with another investor. Any feedback from people who've gone through the process? It is. You have, so legally it is there, but it shows your responsibility and the responsibility of the investor. So this will be under and it's a question of implementing it on it. So, but important topic because you're...
We covered ourselves with some good terms and conditions. So how do we let the investor control our actions?
Because on these conditions, the investor, suppose I'm an investor, I will tell you, he will tell you what are the elements that you need his approval or her approval in order for you to implement. So this he will specify, hiring of key positions, investments above a certain amount, raising funds. So he would list what are the elements. We've gone through this process actually with Lama, with one of the companies, where there is, so he puts the delegation of authorities. So how much of authority you have and how much of authority you need to come back to me before. And this is a list. And this list will mention these are the elements where you cannot do it without getting my approval. Okay, so these are, so it's important. But you need to feel, because it's too tightening, you will see, ما فيني اشتغل هيك. So it's not, because I'm going back on elements, so it needs to be really a win-win between both of you. And we'll be happy to facilitate this discussion. Great question. Any other questions?
يعني لا رح جرب ما بعرف كيف اشرحه. في حال شركه ما بعرف بحالتنا مثلا ضينا نحن من 2 or 3 years ago and we didn't aware من كل هيدي الاخبار. يعني ما بنعرف هالقد لازم نفوت باي ديتيلز، لازم نعمل دبل تشيك، لازم يكون في اكزيت استراتيجي، وهلا صرنا اوير اباوت ات. قديش فينا نكون عم نغير بشيء اوريدي انمضى وخلص، في شيء بيتغير، في شيء بيحمي، في شيء شو الحل بهالحاله؟
Sorry, I don't,
the question?
I don't,
Okay.
I don't
All right.
hear it. I'm sorry.
اتفضلي. ايه
بس مش حاطين معه اكزيت استراتيجي.
اوكي.
وكمان انه نحن لازم يكون في اكزيت استراتيجي حاليه بتزبط، او انا عم بحكي هلا مثلا نحن تعرضنا لها، صار عم نفكر فيها على صفحه حاليا، يمكن حدا غيرنا يتعرض لها، ما عم نفكر.
اوكي. لا فهمت. هلا you have things that you put in the contract and you have things that you do not put in the contract. The exit strategy, I wouldn't put it in the contract because you don't know. You discuss it, you have in your pitch deck, and you have in the discussion, these are the potential exit strategies. And exit, nobody will get in before understanding how he's going to exit. But this, you cannot commit on an exit strategy. You could say, look, most probable exit is going to be a strategic investor that wants to enter this market or a financial investor that is interested. So you will discuss those, but you will not put it. Others, say for instance, you have the approval to go, you've given him some authorities, authorities. So if you want to change it, then through the board, you say, this is what we had in terms of our delegation of authority. Today we are at a different level with a different maturity. We want to change the delegation of authority. تقعدوا مع البورد هذه new delegation of authority بنقبل فيها وبنطبقها. So this.
What if the investor stops? Does not want these new terms to be implemented?
Okay, so these matters you will. Okay, so what you do is you vote. You have a board. This is why you need to do it through a board. You have a board here. You have the delegation of authorities. You have different views on it. So we discussed it. Each one present their case, and at the end of the day, we vote.
And does it happen that you discuss the terms with the investor first and then you raise them to the board, or is it the other way around?
Okay, typically you don't have a board. In most cases, you don't have a board. With your first investor, the investor would come in, would set some terms. You would understand and agree on these terms. These terms end up being either in the term sheet or in the shareholder agreement. So these are the terms that you have to abide by both parties. Then you set up a board because the investor is here, he would like to have a seat, he would like to have a way, so you set a board. Then you get, in 2 years down the road, kabarte, you change. You might get another investor, you go through this process again where you change. The terms and conditions change, the level of authorities would change, the delegation would change. This is if you have another. If you don't have another investor, so what you do is you sit down and you discuss it, say, look, this is how we've been working. What do you think if we could do these changes behind it? Now, he might say yes, he might say no. So at the end, if he says no, what do? We have to go back to the agreement and to see what is the right. Can he block those? So I don't know what has, but in most cases, it's a discussion that takes place where both parties needs to be aligned behind it. Okay, but some of them will be documented in the shareholder agreement. And those, if you want to change them, you have to go back and with like any shareholder agreement, you make an amendment to them and then you discuss them. Okay?
أول case الأثورتي بتنتقل من investor for new investor. So first one بصير بطل دخله new investor بيصير بالصلاحيات أو new authority.
Okay. So yeah. Typically, your capital structure would change. So you have a certain capital structure. They start being, let's say, 50-50. Lama Makarem comes in. She takes 20%. They become 40-40. She is 20. Constantin comes in, wants to take 20% of it. So their 40% is further reduced. Her 20% is reduced. I come in with 20. So what you do is you have a different, what we call cap table. So this is the cap table which shows the shareholder agreement. As we do those cap table changes, there is also different level of authorities that are related to it. So this will evolve as your cap table would evolve and as the structure of your delegation authority بتتغير مع but normally in most of the cases there is the voting power, but this could change, would be aligned with the shareholding position that you have. So in some cases, this is why in some cases you want to retain the majority so as to be able to take decisions. But even if you have majority and I'm your investor with a minority interest, I still would say 1, 2, 3, 4 ما فيك تعملي even if بلا ما أنا اتفق فيهم. So this will be listed contractually behind it, even though you are a majority shareholder. Okay, any other questions? Lama, do you want to add to this?
No. Okay. So the question now is, I'm going to show you a pitch deck, which is an actual pitch deck that was presented to us by OK Distribution, the grocer's startup. And I would like you to tell us what is missing from the pitch deck based on the discussion that we saw before. So they're starting, I'm just letting you go through it, I'm not presenting it. that's the problem. Next.
Go back one slide just to show. This is the main pain point. This is the manufacturer. This is the small grocery store. Look at the difference. People are intermediate. What is he doing? He's breaking completely the ground. Next slide. He's providing the small grocery store direct access to the manufacturer. Lama. So and he's doing it through what technology? So from the supplier directly to the beginning through the OK distribution. By doing, I'm sorry. This is his breakthrough. This is his innovation. Through technology, he's removing about 5 to 6 different intermediaries that each one of them are taking discounts in the process. This is a major breakthrough for our country and for the distribution challenge.
This is the solution. So this is the app that grocers will have to go to order their stock. Next. So what is missing from this pitch deck?
How do they make money? The business model. Maybe I missed it. Sorry. Unless I missed it, I didn't see clearly the business model. How do they make money? Who pays them? Grocery stores, the suppliers. Was no clarity on this one.
Excellent. What else is missing? Please.
They didn't show the ask. They showed what they wanted to do, but what do they need to do that? Where are they going to spend that money? So that was missing as well.
Absolutely. What else?
Traction. What they achieve until now. Future also. Next step.
Did we see the team?
There was any other missing points?
It doesn't.
Yes. What else?
You covered most of the points. So investment rationale, how are they going to make money? What was your point?
Ask.
How much money do you need? How are they going to spend it? What am I getting? Is it debt? Is it equity? What is the valuation of the company today? So these are and the financial projections. قد إيه راح تعملوا؟ قد إيه راح تعملوا هالسنة؟ How much are you going to do next year, the following year? What is your revenue projections? What are your profit projections? What sort of gaps do you have? So these are all elements. It's a great slide set. They have a wonderful value proposition. This is a company that we will be interested in investing in on it. But these are excellent points that you have brought up. Any other ones? No other ones you had? The competitors. So how do they differentiate versus other alternatives? Here, basically, they have, because they're breaking. It's a new. They're actually like. No, I mean they are, which is the traditional way of supplying. You do, but it's important to show how do they differentiate versus the existing channels that they have. So great point.
The go-to-market strategy is also missing. How will they do it? Partnership with suppliers, with big manufacturers, etc. So this will give you an idea of what to look for in your own pitch decks to improve on them. Can we still go for 10 minutes? Yes? Okay. So,
I think we have 22 minutes.
yes, but yeah.
Okay.
So going to capital structure and funding rounds. So usually when we are raising funds, we start the first investment is called a pre-seed funding. Okay, and this is here we're talking mostly equity. So at the pre-seed funding, we're talking about small tickets, typically those that are interested in investing at this stage because this is the highest risk. This is idea stage, this is pre-revenue stage, this is where we're not sure yet if it works, if the business model works or not. Who invests in here? Usually it's the founder, the family and the friends of the founder, and we say it's for a founder, family, friends, and fools because the risk is so high here that only fools would invest. Of course, with accelerators whose mission is to help those startups grow. After the pre-seed funding, this is the seed funding. The risk is getting lower. The ticket size is getting bigger. And here at this stage, we start having business angels coming in. So business angels are those that have deep pockets, are willing to invest, but these are individuals. So it's not a fund, it's not an institutional investor, it's not a bank. It's one person with deep pockets who's willing to invest to make returns. Then it's the post-seed funding. Here we start seeing VCs, venture capital funds, who are coming. They are bringing with them bigger tickets, and they've already seen the track record. The viability of the model has been proven, and then this is where they invest. And then you have the Series A and the Series B and C and D. This is bigger tickets, bigger scale investments and companies, and you have VCs, later stage VCs, private equity firms that come in, and of course, business angels would still be interested if this falls within their investment mandate. So on the capital structure, what are the funding instruments available? First of all, we have grants. You've all taken grants. The next one is debt capital. Debt is loans. It could be straight debt, it could be subsidized debt. Subsidized is at a lower interest rate. Who are the debt providers? Business angels can provide debt. We have invested in several debt rounds. Banks, typically, before the crisis here, banks were the debt were the source of debt capital, and you have funds that invest in debt. Then one other instrument that is similar to debt is convertible debt. Convertible debt is debt until a maturity date where this debt automatically converts into equity. So what's the benefit here is that you don't get diluted early on. You don't have equity shareholders coming in and interfering with your business. It's a debt agreement, but at maturity, the debt holder will convert their holding of convertible debt into equity stake in your company at the valuation that will be agreed upon that. Until you, sorry.
Does that mean they have that payments as well?
Exactly. So until maturity, you need to they accrue interest. Most of them they don't pay interest. Interest is accrued until the end, and upon maturity, the principal with the accrued interest will be converted into equity. But sometimes they do pay interest, and this is one of the drawbacks of convertible debt because it takes from the cash flow of the company. I'll skip safe. Equity, we all know equity. Equity investors, they will take a shareholding. You get diluted as a founder. They have, based on their equity stake in your company, they have ownership rights. They can interfere. This goes back to your previous question. They interfere in company decisions and the strategy of the company and the hiring of key staff and so on. Safe is between equity capital and convertible debt or debt. What is SAFE? It's simple agreement for future equity. It's a new instrument. We have seen it with two, three companies so far in Lebanon. In the Gulf, it's very used, very familiar in the US and in Europe. So what does it do? Today, you give me money. It's like convertible debt. We don't discuss valuation at this stage, but upon the maturity here is not a date, it's the liquidity event. So usually when we do SAFE, it's because we expect that in 1 or 2 years down the line, there will be another funding round, which we call the liquidity event. And until then, we don't discuss valuation. So today you give me your money as an investor, I take it, I don't pay you interest, which is better than the convertible debt. Interest doesn't accrue, and we don't discuss valuation, which is better than the equity capital. Upon the liquidity event in 1 or 2 years down the line, I convert my SAFE note into common shares in the company at the valuation then, but because I entered early on, I get either a discount or a valuation cap, which means that if the other investors in 2 years down the line are coming at a valuation of 10 and my discount was a 20% discount, I come in at an 8 million valuation. If I agreed on a valuation cap instead of a discount, if the valuation cap was 6, I enter at a valuation of 6, even though the valuation at the time of the liquidity event was 10. Okay, so the benefit of a SAFE is that I don't worry about valuation today. I give myself time for me to scale up and increase my valuation. I don't pay interest, and I don't get diluted immediately because I'm giving myself time to increase my valuation and get less diluted within my funding round. Questions?
What happens if liquidity event doesn't happen?
That's the risk that you're taking. You are still a preferred shareholder. So if it doesn't happen, if the company goes bust and there's a liquidity event, you get paid back just like the debt holders are paying back. But this is the risk that you are carrying by being...
On the balance sheet, it's a debt. So on your balance sheet, it's a loan that you have. It's a zero interest loan that will be converted to equity if the liquidity event. If there is no liquidity event, you still have a loan and they have to repay you back the loan. So before the shareholder gets their money back. So there is a risk if no liquidity, or if the liquidity event is delayed by 2 years or 3 years or 4 years that you have, and you will say then my discount rate that I negotiated is not high enough compared to the, but these are the risks but it is picking up, and normally you do it when you have clarity on the liquidity event. If there is not such a clear timing, amounts, valuation on this liquidity event, then my recommendation is that you will question whether you want to get into a SAFE agreement. Any other? But we could give you examples of it as you will be approached with it. Tfaddali.
Two questions. The first one related for in our case today, the investor come and says that, okay, I will invest, and let's say $100,000, okay? Through 5 years, I want them 1.75. So after 5 years or before, when he will get this money, his money, he will exit. So he take equity for 5 years, but now when we put them, it's like debt, but with equity. So where you can.
Repeat what you said.
Okay, he come and say that I will give you 100,000.
Yes.
Okay, and I will take 7.5 from the percent from the
So
company.
this is equity capital.
When you will give me back 1.75, like around $175, I will return the 7.5% for you.
Okay.
But for 5 years, after 5 years, also you will give me this number if it's not from the asset of the company.
So
And in this case, it is mixed between different.
Is it a transaction that you already did? Is it an
did you sign
agreement?
it? Okay. I just want to be careful because if today I'm giving you 100,000 and there is an expectation for 7.5% and I'm going to get back $175,000, then I'll give you back the 7.5. This is what he's saying. So he's willing to sell you at 175 up to 5 years down the road. So what he's doing is in some ways it's because he's guaranteed. So what he's selling you is it's not true equity, because equity, suppose that the company doesn't work, you still owe him. He's expecting his $175,000 in 5 years down the road. So we need to look into the details. So in some ways, it is like a debt structure where you have over 5 years from 100 to 175. So if you calculate it, it's probably about 12 or 13%. I don't know the calc, but it's about 12 or 13% in interest that is being accrued so that you end up at 175. So he is, do you understand what I'm saying? So although it is perceived as equity because he's taking the 77.5, yeah, so it is, yeah, so yeah, because equity, normally there is no guarantee. Equity is that he's adding a clause where he's protecting himself. In case something goes wrong, he's protecting himself as if you still owe him. But then truthful contract, we need to see the detail of the contract. So you have to be careful with this. So because there is a commitment from your side to buy him back. If there is no commitment so if there is a commitment, then it's a loan. It's a loan where today he's taking 7. Does he have the choice not to give you back? He wants to keep the 77.5. So okay, so in this case, it is clearly a loan. What you do is you have 100K now. There is a commitment from you that you're going to pay him back 175K after a certain period of time. So in this, he's specifying also what will be the equivalent interest payment. So it's up to you to decide whether you want this or you don't want this. It is debt. It is debt, although it is, I'm taking now. Now, why would he take 7.5%? There must be a clause in the contract, because if he sees that you are doing very well, he sees the 7.5 is more than 175. So I don't want the 175. I want to remain a shareholder at 7.5. So for him, he wants to have the benefits of an equity, probably, but at the same time, he wants the protection of a debt. So he wants the uphill, in case your company is valued, I don't know, $10 million, so he wants to keep the 7.5, but at the same time, he wants the guarantee that no matter what happens, I'm going to get $175,000 back. Do you understand? So he's trying to get, you cannot get both. So yeah, we will happy, but the devil is in the detail. So send us a term sheet, and then we'll tell you what are the clauses that you might want to modify. Okay?
For the second question related to the slide before, when you put the yes, قد ايه تقريبا لازم الشركة تكون عم percentage for investor or for from equity. يعني each stage يعني بالبريسيد الowner أو الفounder اللي ضلوا
Okay. Normally, as an investor, I don't want you, because I know that you're going to go through 4 or maybe 5 funding rounds. So I don't want you to be too much diluted. Because if at the end of the 5th round you only have 5%, your level of commitment is not going to be the same. So as an investor, and this is another way of calculating, I look back in 5 rounds what I would like you to have in terms of minimum equity so that you are committed, and then I go back and trying to define what is the value today. So typically what you do is you know that it's going to be, you need to make sure, you need to first to project. So today there is 1 funding round. What is most likely going to be the 2nd or the 3rd or the 4th funding round? And we will help you in doing this. So when you do this, when it would happen, what do you think the value of the agreement, the value will be related to the revenue and the profits? Based on this, what will be the dilution that you will have? So it will depend on how much money you need. you know, and what will be the value of the company. So for each of the funding round, we will simulate it. So we will simulate today. We will come up and we'll say, this is your financial projection. On these financial projections, we expect that there is a funding gap in year 2. There is another one in year 4. There might be one in year 5. At this stage, we expect your value to be so much. This is the money that you need. This will be your expected dilution from 50% to 40% to 25% to 15%. So this exercise is done, and we could do it. It's very simple to do upfront, but you will have different, the more successful you are, the more funding round you'll have. Because when you have to grow, growth comes with cash constraints. جاوبت على السؤال أم لا؟ نقعد اوكي نعملها. So there is no ما فينا لك اليوم 50 ل 40 بدي اشوف شو البروجكشنز بدنا نشوف الفاينانشال موديل. So once we have the financial model, we know the funding gap. Once we know the funding gap, we know okay, she needs 200 now. She needs 300K in a year down the road. She needs 500K. We also know with this what will be your estimated valuation. So then we know how much dilution you will have for each of the funding round. هيدي it's not too difficult as an exercise.
Yes.
Okay?
No. Okay. Now, what are the sources of funding? So as I said, founders, family, friends, the grant providers who are typically development financial institutions, accelerators, or international NGOs, microcredit providers for small tickets at the beginning, debt investors, small and medium cap equity providers, angel investors, family offices, so big families that have assets that they are managing, are investing also, funds including VC funds, impact funds, and crowdfunding where many people come and put their bids and invest in one investment. The idea is, now we shouldn't stress on this because grants have, you know, it's a two-way sword. Do try to take as many grants as you can, but at a certain point in time, you need to know where to stop focusing on getting grants and focus more on the business and on growing the business in a way that is more business-minded and more, yes, for financial sustainability, internal financial sustainability.
This is a very important point because there is a point upon which grants becomes destructive. Why? Because they take too much of your time that should be put on growing your business, adding value to your business. So you will know at which point in time, and you say, I don't need this grant. I need to focus, I need to grow my business, I need to increase my valuation. So what is this inflection point? It would depend on each one of you. But you will feel it. You will know it in saying, khalas. Because all these grants take a lot of admin time, a lot of follow-up, a lot of impact reporting, a lot of financial reporting behind it that are needed at the beginning, but at one point in time they won't be needed because the value added that they bring in terms of capacity building becomes more and more marginal. You've been through these rounds 5-6 times, so at the end you know, so try to understand that this point is happening. If you still want to rely on grants for all, you're going to get some surprises. Okay?
But, excuse me, it's very much related to the
situation we're going through in Lebanon. I'm active in several NGOs, and we were depending in another NGO that I'm representing today. We were depending on grants. Then we were financially sustainable. We have several activities that we do. And then we went through this financial crisis in Lebanon, and we were obliged at this period of time to depend one more time on grants and to go back a few years back. So it's not up to us. Sometimes we face a critical situation. We cannot go away from it.
Look, absolutely, there is no one shirt doesn't fit all. Every one of you has a different. The way to go about it is really through your financial forecasting, because the financial forecasting will tell you what are the gaps that you need, and then the discussion with your board is how do we bridge it. Is it grant, is it debt, or is it other ways behind? So these discussions needs to take place on a regular basis, and in these cases you might need grant now, and you might still need grants in 2 or 3 years down the road, while in between you have raised debt or you might have raised equity. So I'm not telling you no to grants, I'm telling you be careful when you get with grants what you're also getting with it. So at one point in time, it's if you don't have any other alternative, clearly take it. So there is no one rule. I would say it varies from one company to the other, but in the back of your mind, you need to be financially sustainable. And to be financially sustainable, you need to build a revenue model that allows you to do this. But it will take you 2 years, 3 years, 5 years to do this, and meanwhile, you need to have subsidies coming from grant or from other means. But if you want to continue long-term, show me that you have a plan to be financially sustainable, maybe in 10 years down the road, and we will support you along these 10 years. Is this clear? Very good. Thank you.
Okay, so we're just covering debt and equity. So what are lenders looking for? Usually they ask for collateral. So this is mortgage, this is real estate collateral that they would like to seize. In case you don't pay them back, they would sell it and they would seize it and sell it. Usually when it's the old banking, when banking was there, the bank would like to have your banking business, your business account, your payroll, your personal account, your staff account, your credit cards, and so on. So usually they used to ask for this. They want a business plan to make sure that you are able to service the debt. You are able to pay interest payments on schedule. They would like to see a good record keeping. This is basic. So this is audited financials, proper board resolutions, not more than that. And usually they ask for a personal guarantee on top of the 100% collateral. The other thing for that is now, today, in the current market environment in Lebanon, it's very, very expensive. So we're talking about rates not less than 15% with a collateral, with a personal guarantee. And if you add the factor that most of you are starting now, you add the risk of a startup versus an established organization, and the rate would go from 15 even higher. So today, debt is very expensive, and this will affect your cash flow as an organization.
What do you mean by personal guarantee? Is it just like a contract?
Of the founder, the money. Yes, the money تبعك. So if the organization fails to pay, you as a founder are liable for the investor, and you will pay from your own money.
Even if it's limited by
Yes, because you're writing a personal guarantee on your own personal finances.
And most banks today work on this basis. Most banks. That if they do, actually most banks don't provide that, but those who do, financial institution would do, fully collateralized, and on top of this, personal guarantee. Personal guarantee means in case the value of the land goes down, if I have your personal guarantee, I'll go for whatever assets you own. And normally what they do is they don't do it for individuals, they would do it for the family. So they would ask for, so there is, and each of the family members, I've been in discussion today with one of these families, each of the family members list the assets that they have. They list all the assets, real estate, personal portfolio bonds, everything. It's updated on an annual basis, and this is used as, if you want, for the personal guarantee. So they know what are the assets across all the family members, and they have the ability to be able to sue them on those different assets in case they default on the debt. And none of you wants to get involved in this. So it's very important that we do. Now, some of the SCs that we work with, social enterprise, we do it with no collateralized, no, because this is what we call impact investment. Impact investment, you're willing to take the risk. These companies could default on it, so we accept this risk. This is part of our business. You cannot go and ask you as a founder of a social enterprise to put your personal guarantee when you're doing this on a pro bono basis and trying to support it. You understand? So, but traditionally, what Lama is explaining is what's happening today in the market.
Sorry, as an NGO, when it's non-profit, how can there be collaterals?
The NGO, there could be collaterals in if you're reaching me for debt, even as an NGO, you're a debt holder. I want to guarantee on my debt. So I want you to be able to, your NGO could be non-profit, but if you taking this money in order to generate revenue streams that you want your NGO to start generating cover part of your expenses to the revenue, if you are asking a debt from any institution or any business angel, this institution or this business angel have the right to put the condition that you want. Typically on the debt, what are the conditions? How much money? What are the terms of the debt? 4 years, 5 years, what is the grace period, 1 year, what you have, what is the interest rate that they charge. It could be subsidized, it could be 0, it could be 3%, it could be 6%, or it could be 15%. And in case it is low, they might ask for guarantees. So these guarantees could be land or could be plots, and they might ask for personal, collaterals.
It would be personal rather
It will be personal. So this will go back to you on a person independent. So this is, but some of them would say, I know you, I know what you do, I'm providing you without any guarantee. So this is really a discussion on a case-to-case basis.
Okay. What are equity investors looking for? They're looking for a solid plan, a strong management team who can execute on this plan. They want cash flow. They want to ensure that you are not only paying interest, but you are generating cash, because this will affect their dividends. Eventually, that will affect the valuation of the company. So they want a strong cash flow. They want all information, financials, operational metrics, market information. They want to know everything about the company because they have ownership over it. Their liability does not end with the maturity date or with the amount of debt that you have borrowed. So they want every information possible. They want to have a good chemistry between you. They are your partners, so there should be chemistry. They usually request a board seat in order to approve and disapprove certain decisions, strategic decisions, financials, budget, and so on. And they want to know that there is an exit potential for them. So they want to know that there will be a liquidity event through which they will exit the company when the time is due. But it is a long-term horizon, whereas for debt holders, it's usually 3-5 years for the maturity of the debt, while equity investors are ready to stay longer. What are they looking for? What you should be covering in your pitch deck. Okay, the market, the unique value proposition, a strong business model, scalability potential, a good risk management framework, the financials that are there, the team, and the exit strategy. So this is why we mention all of those in the pitch deck.
Sorry, Lama, why would they need an exit investor?
Because they're not here to stay. They want to make money. They're coming into your company to make money. So they enter at a valuation of 5, they want to get out at a valuation of 12.
Or they can become part of the shareholders?
They become part of your shareholders. Once they enter as investors, as equity investors, they already have a shareholding percentage from your capital structure. But they don't want to stay there. They want to go after other investments, other companies, better investments, other markets. So they want to use their funds. So they come, it's just exactly like when you buy a share in Apple. You buy Apple, you sit on the investment for 1-2 years, 1-2 months, and then you want to exit because you want to go after another investment and make another. So they don't want to be stuck with you unless they are strategic investors. So strategic investors, like partners, like suppliers, they're in the business, they're in the market, they're in the industry, so they want to stay. But financial investors are here to make money. So now how do you decide on investment partners? As I said, it's a two-way decision. So it's not anyone with the money that is a good match for you as an equity investor. What do you look at? You look at their track record, if they're financial institutions. You look at the number of transactions that they entered into and exited. You look at the alignment in values between your organization and theirs. You look at the alignment in company strategy, investment strategy. If you're expecting them to stay for 5 years and in their investment horizon they're looking only at 2 years, there's misalignment. The quality, the credential, the completeness of the team, the references, the availability of funds. We're talking to SEs who had signed contracts with investment funds, but the funds are not there. There was an event that locked the funds. So now they're sitting with a promise to pay, but they don't have the funds, and they are suffering from cash flow problems because of this. So make sure that the investment partner that you're talking and discussion with have the funds available. And the dynamics of the due diligence would usually show how it will be when you're working with them and their style. I'm going fast just not to keep you longer. Last slide. So alternative sources of capital. If you're not going for debt, not going for equity, what could be other, not going for grants, what could be other means to raise funds? One is crowdfunding, which is a sort of equity, but it's not one investor. So there's a crowdfunding platform where you put your investments, you say that you're raising $300,000 in funds, then I will put in $1,000, my sister will put in $500, my brother will put in our friends, people in the network, and very small tickets, but we will get the 100,000 that we're raising. Supplier financing is that when you ask your supplier for favorable terms. So instead of paying my supplier immediately on cash, they will give me credit terms. And this is a sort of financing for me to bridge the cash flow gap and delay my payment. It will give me a cash flow breather. Strategic partnership, so this is where you enter into joint ventures to gain either access to capital, access to resources, access to markets, access to network, access to expertise, and you decide then how the strategic partnership would look like. Is it profit sharing? Is it equity? Is it revenue sharing? And the last one is revenue sharing. So I come in, I put 50K with you. I don't get equity. I don't want you to pay them back, but I want you for the next 5 years to share your revenues with me on that particular project. So 50-50, 20-80, we agree on the amount of funds that they're putting in versus the amount that I have invested. Tips. So network early on and build long-term relationships from now, even if you're not today looking for funding. Reach out to advisors, because you will need, with a strong CFO, you will need a financial advisor on board to draw your attention to specific clauses in the term sheet, to specific concerns in the financial model that you need to look at. Select your investment partner as if you're selecting your partner in life, because they're living with you, they're sharing your business with you, they're sharing your decisions, and make sure you have a strong alignment in values and priorities. Always go for grant, but develop into debt and equity later on. And when you're going for equity, consider phasing the new equity into tranches so that you don't get diluted. So if you need 300 today, go for 300, and then you get the other 200 in 2 years down the line at a higher valuation and less dilution from your side. We were supposed to cover a term sheet and the due diligence process, which will take 10 minutes, but we will start with it, I guess, in the next session, unless you want to stay for another 10 minutes.
We're supposed to stay until 5 or until 6?
Until 5. Are you willing for another 10 minutes?
So Maya.
On the calendar it says 6, so our calculations are till 6.
So we stay?
Okay,
So we stay?
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'll show you before describing a term sheet. Actually, let me describe it briefly and then I'll show you an example. So what is a term sheet? It's a bullet point document. So it's not a large text, bullet points, where they're covering certain terms and conditions of the investment agreement. And the term sheet could be binding or non-binding. Non-binding, it means you cannot, it's not binding you legally. You can get out of the deal without any penalties that need to be paid. What does it consist of? First of all, what is the investment opportunity? What is the type of investment? The pre and post financing values of the company, if it's equity, the value of the assets and liabilities, any declared risk, the investment sum, so how much I'm putting in, and the payment terms, due diligence, timelines, and preconditions. What I will show you is an example of a term sheet, and we'll discuss it together. So LAU have started investing in some of the companies in their portfolio in the accelerator of LAU. And this is the term sheet under the LAU Innovate, which is the company that is making those investments. So I can enlarge it a bit. Is it better? Can you see better? Okay. So the investor, in this case, it's LAU Innovate. The entrepreneur here, which is the name of the startup and the entrepreneur behind it. Or if it's a company established already, incorporated, then they put the name of the company. What business they're in. So this is a brief description of the business. What is the investment amount? So this is 10K transferred to the below account. So $10,000. What is the use of proceeds? It shall be utilized in developing the business based on the investor approved budget. The valuation, this term sheet does not assign a value, so we're not talking equity financing. Interest rate 10%, so it's a debt. So 10% interest rate that shall accrue on the investment amount per year. The returns on this interest are converted to preferred stock, so they're not paying interest. It's accrued and it's converted to preferred stock once the investor requests conversion at maturity.
But how are they paying interest if there's 10%?
Who with 10% interest rate, but they don't pay it. It will accrue.
Okay.
So instead of paying it monthly or quarterly, this interest payment will accrue at the end, and at the end, the principal with the accrued interest will be converted into common shares. Liquidation preference. So in the case that the company goes bust and it needs to be liquidated, the proceeds on a merger, sale, dissolution, etc., will first be paid to the investor before the common stockholder. So this is giving them priority in the case of liquidation to other shareholders in the company. So it's senior debt. Board representation. The investor shall not appoint any director to the board of directors, so they're not asking for this, although some investors will require a board seat. Preemptive rights, this is to avoid dilution. So the investor shall be granted rights to participate in future equity rounds based upon their prorated, as if converted, ownership and equity. So if the company is doing an equity round later on, they can the investor in this convertible debt issue has the right to convert to get shares on a pro rata basis, so that he doesn't get diluted.
Here, I guess he would put, if he wanted preference, he would say, I want like a 20% discount. This is where he put it, like the investor.
The 20% discount, you're talking about the safe?
If the investor wants to say, because I'm an early investor, I want, whenever there's financing, I want to have a discount. Is this where he would put it?
If it's a safe note, yes. ما فهمت السؤال. Discount, yes. لأن هون the investor is getting the interest rate. So the 10% interest rate he's getting. But safe, he's not getting any interest. And the convertible debt, he's getting a 10% interest on it. But here we're saying, لأن هو eventually he's going to become a common shareholder, right? Before he converts into common shareholder, إذا عملوا another issue with equity, he doesn't want to be diluted.
Okay.
So here the preemptive right is for him to be able to purchase common shares in the same pro rata ownership that he has today if he was to convert today, not wait until the conversion
So
event.
the company is obligated to invite them to this.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Exactly. As if he is already a shareholder, although he didn't convert yet, so he's not a shareholder yet.
And every time there's a conversion, there's another valuation. They have to evaluate every time because
Yes.
it's a private company.
Yes.
There isn't a clear valuation.
Yes, yes. Now, the full ratchet anti-dilution is another anti-dilution clause, and here it's saying, we can read it together. If the company issues any additional equity securities for a consideration per share that is less than the subscription price per preference share, so if they're doing a down round, so if the round that they are issuing is at a lower valuation than the one that they agreed to now, the subscription price of the preference shares shares issued subject to this investment shall be adjusted on a full ratchet basis. So they will adjust his ownership in a way that the percentage ownership today will equal the percentage ownership even after the down round that they would issue on the next funding round. So these are all terms in a term sheet, okay? We're going through them as an example, but all of these are typical. The tag along right is that if the entrepreneur leaves, I as an investor have the right to, I will ask to leave with him, because I'm investing in this company because I want to work with this entrepreneur, because I think this entrepreneur will take the company and will execute on the idea. So here, in the event that the entrepreneur sells part of his shares and leaves, the investor shall have the right to transfer its shares to such purchaser the investor will sell the shares at the same time as the entrepreneur will sell the shares, because I don't want to stay in the company if the entrepreneur has left it. Exactly.
How can they do that?
مكتوبة بالterm sheet. مكتوبة بالterm sheet لكن بتصير. So the new investor needs to be aware of the existing term sheet and that has been signed. So me, Lama, as a new investor in this company, I need to see the term sheets of previous investments to understand how I will be affected too.
What if the new investor doesn't suit? And if his principles and vision is completely different.
Yeah, this is why one of the things that the investor would look at are the co-investors in this company. So if we're looking at a later stage company that has already a cap table and other shareholders there, me as a potential new investor, I would need to understand who those shareholders are, who those investors are. Do I fit with them? Am I aligned with their strategy? Because I will be along with them in the shareholding structure.
The company protects itself from the new investor.
كيف يعني؟
يعني if the new investor doesn't suit the company and he voted from the previous investor, how is the company protected from this new investor?
Normally the way you do it is that you will not get the opportunity to sell your shares to a new investor without me as the initial founder to approve it. So this is what you will specify. Because there is no way you want to have there people that you don't share the same values.
Yeah.
So this
Okay, so it's a condition you set.
It would be definitely a condition. Because you could have political affiliation, you could have different values. So it's so by all means.
Okay. Then non-competition. So the entrepreneur, each officer in the company shall enter into a non-competition agreement in a form of reasonably satisfactory, so that we don't compete with each other. Breach of investment terms here, in case they breach, they will ask them to pay a penalty of 10% of business revenues in the last year of operations, or 2 times the investment amount. So this, if I'm the SE raising this, I would keep an eye on it. It's heavy. 10% of my revenues, of my last year revenues, as a penalty, because I did a breach to one of those terms. Definitive agreements. This term sheet covers the principal terms of the contemplated investment and is not meant to be an exhaustive document, okay? Investment conditions here. So having approved a business plan, management and employees entering into employment agreements, satisfactory to the investors, intellectual property rights, a conflict of interest check, background check for entrepreneurs with a full attestation, residency status, criminal records, and so on. And here are the obligations. So comply under all law, act in good faith, share information, not use any business ideas that are okay. So all of these are typical legal. To promptly share any information regarding business background. So here, what to share? Quarterly updates on the company financial standing, quarterly management reports, annual audited financials, reports on new revenue lines, planned financing round, disclosure on investment offers received from other investors, reports on existing or newly developed product roadmaps, planned change of control, so when we have a majority shareholding coming, not to sell or dispose of a chunk of the company's assets. Voila. This is the term, so this is the duration. It shall enter into effect as of X month of 2024 and shall remain valid until the earlier of either a subscription by the investor in the equity securities or the termination in accordance with terms and conditions. And these are the termination terms. These are representation warranties, image rights that they can use them on social media and so on. Intellectual property again, confidentiality, indemnification, expenses, the governing law, which country, the laws of Lebanon. Here's the conversion. So following the incorporation of the company and when it issues equity securities, which is the conversion, the liquidity event, then the investor shall automatically have the option to acquire equity securities proportionate to the investment that each of them has made, and such equity securities shall be in preferred stock, so not common, and the share capital of the company. So they have priority, with priority on dividends and other rights. And the investor may apply a discount rate of the per share price paid to the company, and the discount is of 50% if the company raises Series A, and no discount if it's below, if it's Series A above 5 million, and no discount if the valuation is below 5 million. There you go, and then here you sign. So this is an example of a term sheet. It's heavy, so you need usually a legal advice on it for a lawyer to read it through to make sure that you are well protected from the investor, and you are protecting the company and future investors who are coming, because you don't want the existing term sheet that you have to deter new investors from coming and investing in the company. So that was term sheets. So we covered most of those, anti-dilution, liquidity preference. The vesting period is the time that we would like you to stay in the company for you to get either the ESOP, or for you as investor to get the shareholding that you have. Tag and drag along we just mentioned.
And is it always advisable to go for short to medium term, not 3 to 4 years, not more than that?
It depends. For convertible, for safe, it's very short term. For equity, it's open. Okay, how to negotiate? So first, understand the typical clauses and the related limitations of each. Do you want to cover it?
Look, I know it's a long day for you, and it's probably the driest of all the subjects that she has covered. I know it's a long day and it's a very dry subject, but it's an important subject, because at the end of the day, even if it's a grants will need a term sheet. So the term sheet, so you need to understand it. You need two types of advice. You need, one is legal advice to make sure that, and the other one is somebody who has signed term sheets. So what I call investment advice. So I recommend that you get in your board someone or in your advisors who could understand through it. So the tips that we have here are tips that based on a number of the term sheets that we have helped organizations sign. You need to make sure, because you read it, you think you understand it, but you don't understand it. So this is why you understand the typical term sheet clause and related limitation as well. So what does this imply? What is the worst case scenario? The second one is you need to understand the valuation, because they would come, like in the case she left, but in her case, she is committing to have a certain exit based on the amount that they have funded initially and what they would expect to get. So understand what are the bases of valuation. Understand the dilution impact. It's the point I was trying to make earlier, is the more successful you are, the more you're going to have rounds. And you need to know before the first round what are the most likely outcome on these different rounds, so that you prepare yourself for what should be the valuation, what should be the amount, what will be the dilution behind it. So what we're asking is to work with your investment advisor to plan this up front. Retain your financial and legal advisor, I mentioned it. You need to mention what is acceptable versus what is not acceptable. So it's important for you, where do you draw the red line? And do this exercise before, so that there is no surprises, because once you sign it, you're in, and a number of times it didn't work out because you felt that this was acceptable, and at the end of the day, it turned out to be too much of pain to be able to implement it. Get more than one. Don't stick with one. If he knows or she knows that she's the only one, the discussion will not be. There needs to be some sort of healthy competition. So if you only have one, it's going to be more of a buyer's game than you. So trying to get some balancing. Take control. So it's not, the advisor is not here, it's your company. It's going to be your shareholding position. You need to make sure you're on top of it. And I know some of the terms are a bit Chinese for you, so you could get the advisor, but you need to understand what you're giving and what you're negotiating. And the last one here is do your own due diligence. They're going to do due diligence on you. They're going to ask you all sorts of questions. It's important for you to do due diligence on them. Where are they coming from? What is the background? What is the track record? Who did they fund before? What sort of management style they have? So this is important for you to check, because they should have done 2 or 3 or 4 other investments. And the last one is a number of times it fails because egos get in. It's very difficult, but you need to get your ego out. It's not only a question of valuation. At the end of the day, do you trust? And is this person going to add value? So if you ask me in terms of whoever it is as debt or equity investor, is there the level of trust that you need and you have in a family member, because he will end up or she will end up being a family member? And is this person in a position to help you add value? So these will be the 2 points that I want you to focus on. Do I trust the person? And is this person going to be able to add value in the long term? And do we share the same values? Because we will have obstacle on the way in order to be able to address it together. And a lot of it is ego-driven, and it's very difficult to get it out. But those who succeeded are those who tried to get their ego outside the equation. We're here to help you. We're here to review it. We're here to give you feedback on it. And it's a bit intricate on it. By the way, it is non-binding. A term sheet is non-binding. I'm correcting Lama. What is binding is the shareholder agreement. The term sheet, you go, you discuss, you could talk, you could sign it, but it's not binding. Once you sign the shareholder agreement, this is the binding document. Okay, so keep this in mind as you go through it. We have gone through this. Okay, should not. I think it's important. We could do this afterwards. Or you want to cover it now?
Just 2 minutes.
Okay.
So what is due diligence? This is where, it's fine. This is where the investor will come, you will open the data room for them, and they will go through your files. So they will look at strategic, operational, legal, HR, financial, commercial, so everything that has to do with the company. They will look at the documents, and they would want details and to see documents on all of them. So example, the general corporate structure, the marketing and sales, the competition, the market. So every single thing around your company is part of the due diligence. Product lines, the life cycle of products, how do you compare operations, suppliers, licenses, equipment, machinery, the organizational chart, the personnel policies, the benefits of employees, R&D, research and development budgets, and the skill sets, intellectual property, patents, trademark, copyrights, licenses, royalty agreements, contracts that you have signed with suppliers, with employees, with partners, on rebates, on purchase, on sales, your real estate portfolio, deeds and titles, what do you own, property surveys and appraisal, how much do you value your real estate at, environmental, so everything that has to do with legal claims, litigation, consent decrees, judgments that you have received as a company, and your insurance policies, premiums and losses. All of these, there will be documents behind them, and once the investor comes and starts the due diligence, they will want to have access to all those documents to get a full view of the company. This is it for today. Really, thank you for your patience and for your time. The next session on Tuesday, we will cover financial statements, financial modeling, and company valuation. So it will be all finance, all numbers. I recommend that you invite your CFO or accountant or finance person to attend the session from the SE. And voilà, thank you so much.
Thank you.